Hey guys, tonight we're walking into a house that wears two masks. One face greets the parlour guests upstairs, while another toils and strains just below your feet. You're not here to knock politely tonight, you're here to serve. It starts the second you shoulder through the glossy black door of an imposing Victorian townhouse. For one brief moment you glimpse what the wealthy see. Windows dressed in lace, gleaming mahogany, a brass stand for umbrellas worth more than you'll earn all year. But then, fast as lightning, someone yanks you through a slim door left of the foyer. It's tucked away behind a potted fern. They close it firmly, and the brightness vanishes. Now, you're backstage. The corridor suddenly feels cramped. The air grows thicker, more humid. You notice the floor tilts faintly down and your footsteps sound muffled. Planks draped in worn rugs and cold stone. There's an odour too. Not disgusting exactly, but settled. Coal grit, stewed vegetables, soap doing its job. A woman passes you a stained apron. She doesn't bother with introductions. Dining room? Flatware needs shining? Move quickly, that's all. You're in. Not as company, not even as human, really. You're now among the unseen. Victorian houses, the fancy ones anyway, were practically theatrical sets. Whatever the company witnessed was elegant, flawless, pristine. But that fantasy survived only through the crew of workers tucked behind it, operating like machinery yet remaining invisible. Often there were distinct entrances, distinct staircases, and even distinct passageways so the household would never encounter the help. You trail the woman through a winding passage. She gestures towards some doorways, storage, washing room, staff dining, cold room. Then she motions upward. Those steps belong to the head butler and myself. Stay off them. It's the first of countless rules you can't challenge. You're guided down another level now, lower. The surfaces here are bare brick. There's a muted rumble in the overhead plumbing. Someone's running a bath. Above. The noise bounces oddly in the weak light. You encounter a lean, angular man in a black vest heading your way. He ignores you completely. "That's Mr. Haynes," she whispers. "Head butler. Keep silent unless addressed." He despises rookies. You agree, though you still don't know your actual duties. The kitchen radiates the most heat yet, with flames that started well before sunrise. You catch the sizzle of grease in a skillet and the steady chop of a blade hitting wood. There's also a chorus of sounds, some hushed and weary, some cutting and commanding. You pick up fragments of melody, somebody's humming. At the room's centre sits a massive table, and across it 3 platters of silverware awaiting polish. You're pointed toward a pail and a rag. The compound reeks of vinegar and powder. "No smudges," the woman instructs, then vanishes. You begin polishing. Here's something the textbooks leave out. Plenty of servants cleaned silver not with special fabric but with old bread. Crusts crushed and worked, they soaked up grease and removed tarnish. It wasn't elegant, but it succeeded, and bread cost less than fabric. While you scrub, you start catching more chatter about the mistress, how she dismissed yet another tutor, murmurs about the Lord, how he's taken to bolting his office even at supper. Then somebody mentions the girl from weeks back, and instantly everyone goes silent. You don't probe. You're not there to probe. What nobody explains when you step into this house is that the position is only partially about scrubbing. The other part is disappearing without sound, without trace. The less visible you become, the longer you survive. A chime sounds upstairs. It's subtle, but it reverberates through a small brass device hung by the storage door. The plate labelled front parlour starts swinging. Nobody reacts. Then someone points at you. "Well, get moving." She needs her correspondence. You dry your palms, collect the small silver platter and take the service stairs. For the first time, you tally every step. The temperature drops the further you climb. Around step 15, you're already not breathing. And just like that, your routine starts. The service stairs groan in ways you'll memorise soon enough. Step 6 complains, if your weight's too centred. And step 12 shifts slightly left. You stop at the platform. The hush overhead feels like fabric pressed to your face. Below you, the basement hummed with tasks and murmurs. But here, everything holds still. You ease open the panel leading to the front parlour corridor. The atmosphere changes, musty yet fragrant. A subtle mix of floral water, burnt wood, and the strange bite of preservative crystals. The carpet under your soles absorbs every noise. Pure, costly wool, sapphire and amber pattern. You've never stepped on anything this plush. There's a looking glass in the passage. You don't intend to, but you catch your reflection. The mark on your neckline shows like soot on fresh cloth. You dab it, but it just spreads. No choice. The bell sounded. You're holding a tray. You tap once. Come in. Emerges a tone, feminine, detached, stretched like yarn teased from satin. You step inside. The front parlour resembles a shrine of immaculate stillness. Morning light seeps through sheer drapes. A timepiece ticks softly. 3 hounds rest by her chair. Some variety with drooping ears and judgmental stares. And there she perches, the lady draped in a robe, reading glasses positioned perfectly and not bothering to glance your way as you approach. You place the silver platter on the accent table. Her correspondence, 4 pieces, sorted by delivery date, exactly as told. She gestures faintly. You retreat, keeping her in view, and lower your head before withdrawing. Not one syllable traded. That counts as victory. You close the panel softly and press against the corridor outside, exhaling the air you forgot you held. She didn't scold. She didn't reject the letters. She didn't summon the head housekeeper. You made it. But then you catch another chime. Now the marker says office. Downstairs they inform you he needs his grooming water. The other servants occupied. It falls to you once more. You grasp it fast. The upper floor doesn't follow reason. It follows moods, and you're the tool for their seamless satisfaction. You rush back down, prepare the bowl, fold the cloth, and climb again. The staircase, the passage, the carpet. Silence. Now it's the master. He doesn't raise his eyes from his papers, but his gaze catches you in the glass over the mantel. You dip slightly. He makes a noise. You position the basin and withdraw. He's dressed in a morning coat, forest green with narrow trim. There's a mark on his jaw you try to ignore. An unsealed letter rests on his desk. Its wax broken, crimson as wine. There's a scent in the space. Not perfume, not tobacco. Something sharper, a trace of spirits from the evening perhaps, or something knocked over. He glances up and states, "You're the replacement, you confirm?" "Yes, sir." "What do they call you?" You answer. He nods briefly, then dismisses you, but as you turn, he adds, "Perform better than your predecessor." You don't question what became of them. Later that night, when you finally collapse in the staff room, someone hands you tea in a chipped mug. The bread's gone stale, but it's heated. You chew without speaking while the cook hones a blade and someone cleans fuzz from a jacket. You're too drained for words. Your fingertips reek of polish. Your joints throb, but you remain. And as one of the maids sighs and rests against the bricks, you hear her whisper, "Just 30 more years left." She's serious. The real problem with serving in a Victorian house isn't simply the labour. It's when the labour starts. You don't rise. You are roused. A knock on wood, a call, kitchens waiting, then boots fading before you've cracked your eyelids. There's no daylight, no glow, just frigid air, the type that crawls through walls and marrow. Your shared bedding feels like soggy dough. You push upright, fog leaving your mouth, and catch the distant roar of the cooking stove, already burning. The hall clock shows 4:27. You change in blackness, hosiery first, still wet from yesterday. Blouse, covering, hair tied, fast, sloppy. You rinse your face from water in a cracked bowl and skip drying off. It'll ice to your skin shortly anyway. Someone coughs next door. Nobody offers comfort. You move down the hallway, elbows grazing rough plaster. The house overhead lies dormant, not tranquil, just sleeping like something dangerous. All quiet, fangs, and stillness. You'd better maintain it. In the washing room, the shift starts with flame. You stoke the stove, its cold tribute, cautious not to slam the hatch. The previous girl did that multiple times. She's gone now. The space already swelters, slick with vapour from yesterday's linen steeping in basins. Your hands locate the blacking tool, your opening task, the hearths. Victorian fireplaces aren't merely for heat, they're tokens of discipline and status. Each must be scoured, darkened and buffed every single dawn before the family stirs. No cinder can stay, no streak. You drop down, reach inward and start. The carbon covers your forearms. Minutes later, you're hacking. You persist. Once you've completed the initial grate, your fingers are rigid. Your covering's destroyed, and you've got 2 remaining. You shovel the debris into a container, then haul it outside to the cinder heap in the courtyard. It's barely light. Ice grips the metal latch and your exhale rises like vapour. In certain households, the cinders actually get sold to cleanser producers or applied for scrubbing flagstones, but here they're tossed and disregarded. You watch them tumble, ashen, delicate, like expired powder. You come back to the kitchen right as someone thrusts a scrubber at you. Somebody already knocked over the cream for morning meal. The cook's complaining about grain. That didn't arrive. Go grab it. From storage, lower rack. Watch for traps. So you go. The storage room stays dim and unnervingly still. Containers crowd the shelving like preserved spirits. Brined vegetables, liquor fruits, crumbled herbs. You stretch for the grain and something darts over your fingers. Not vermin. Worse, a roach as big as a coin. You don't shriek, though your chest wants to. You simply brush it away, snatch the container and push the panel shut with your arm. Welcome to morning preparation. Eggs must be delicately cooked exactly 4 minutes. Pork fried crunchy, but never twisted. Bread browned on a single surface only, and everything delivered on heated dishes, coordinated precisely 7 minutes once the mistress signals. You've received your instructions, but here's something they omitted when you signed on. The washing maid is expected to consume the charred pieces. She can't squander them, but she also can't get spotted with preserves on her mouth. So she eats, upright and alone with the storage panel ajar, chewing quietly while cleaning the next vessel. You master moving quick, soundless and unnoticed. You master swallowing both appetite and sorrow equally well. The sun finally rises, but you hardly register it. The kitchen becomes a storm of noise and barking orders, and you've already been conscious 4 hours. Your fingers throb from scalding water, your wrists burn from dragging coal pails. And there's still more. Now it's time for the chamber pots. If you thought scrubbing hearths was rough, try carrying 12 ceramic containers filled with last night's contents. Sure, each one has a cover, but covers shift, splash, spill. One wrong step and your apron isn't just soiled, it's ruined beyond repair. You grip 2 at once, arms rigid to prevent shaking, through the hallway, out the entrance, across the courtyard to the outdoor drain. The real kicker, these aren't even from the family's quarters, this is just the guest wing. You haven't earned access to main floor waste yet. That privilege goes to the head chambermaid. Some estates featured water closets, primitive toilets operated by handles and concealed tanks, but most still depended on traditional commodes, cleared every morning before the first meal. And even in homes with indoor plumbing, it was typically deemed too unreliable to trust without a servant inspecting it afterwards. As you empty the first container, you catch the familiar chime behind you. Another ring. You strain to see. Which room? Dining area. You rush back, switch aprons, dry your palms. The bell always means immediately. The gentleman wants his toast perfectly browned, and the mistress will need fresh tea in her sitting room. Last week's help once served it while the leaves were still brewing. Made it too sharp. She wept when the mistress scolded her. A soggy vegetable with fingers. You won't repeat that error. You prepare the silver teapot, filter the leaves, clean the rim. The serving tray must shine, the doily perfectly placed, then back up the service stairs, 32 steps. You tally each one. By the time the household gathers, you've spread the linen, started the hearth, and positioned the curtains exactly right. Morning light on the silverware, not in their faces. You remain just beyond the doorway, completely motionless, anticipating either a request or a disaster. Both seem equally probable. A clatter, a grumble. The gentleman wants preserves, black currant, not strawberry. It's always been black currant. You should have remembered. You silently rebuke yourself and sprint back downstairs. The storage room's secured. You tap once. The housekeeper cracks it open. A sliver, you explain breathlessly. She remains silent, just passes you the jar with an expression that chills your bones. Next time, check the records, she states. Ah, right. The records. A heavy cloth-bound volume where everything's documented. Who consumes what when supplies diminish, who damaged a teacup, and when. Word is the housekeeper once nabbed a footman pilfering wine by examining the records and spotting a missing bottle, then tallied the stoppers. You remind yourself to review it. Tonight you deliver the preserves. The gentleman grunts. The mistress doesn't glance up. You withdraw, invisible and unacknowledged. And now, finally now, as the morning meal dishes are removed, can you slip into the washing area again, where your meal, now ice-cold, sits beneath a cloth. Bread, butter, no jam for your portion. You consume it in 3 gulps. Then you stand. There are 10 more hours ahead and you haven't even begun the washing. But for the moment, as you scrape residue from a serving plate and hear the muffled conversation of the household laughing overhead, one notion settles in your thoughts like a risky ember. They have 0 clue you're here. And somehow that's exactly the intention. There's no designated laundry day because washing is perpetual. The instant the morning meal concludes, you're given a wicker hamper nearly as large as your upper body. It's overflowing with dirty fabric, stockings, nightshirts, wrinkled lace neck pieces, and at least one undergarment with an obvious rouge stain on the ribbon. You remain quiet. You're not compensated to observe. You haul it toward the washing area, which isn't really a room, but more of a damp, stone-surfaced extension next to the washing area. The atmosphere is thick with vapour and something acrid, aged soap and older fabric. Rainfall taps gently on the small, foggy pane above. It could be springtime, it could be Tuesday, but hours don't matter down here. What counts is organising. You divide fabrics from wool, delicates from undergarments. You inspect each item, cautious to avoid the occasional rodent or loose pin. And then comes the deception. Victorian cleaning agent isn't the pleasant floral-scented bar you'd imagine. It's brutal. It stings. It bites beneath your fingernails. Many workers crafted their own, boiled animal fat combined with timber, ash or washing crystals. One worker whispered she once scorched the flesh completely off her knuckles, attempting to impress the head cook with additional brightness. You slip on damaged gloves, plunge your palms into the wash tub, and begin the scrubbing. Garment after garment, sleeve after sleeve. You pound them with a washing stick, pull them across the grooved scrubbard, then rinse and twist until your limbs tremble. Undergarments are the hardest, not because they're fragile, but because they're hazardous. The whale ribs curve and nip your wrists as you clean. You once learned of a washing girl who gashed her palm open on a fractured undergarment clasp and nearly lost her appendage. You never encountered her again. Some of the veteran workers joke that if you endure your first year in washing, you'll outlast the household overhead. You can't tell if that's optimism or a caution. The vapour intensifies. You're perspiring now, though the space is frigid. You wring a slip and liquid streams out like tea from a nozzle. You halt. Listen. The manor above is distant, subdued, but not silent. A chime sounds. Naturally it does. You suspend the dripping items on the drying frame and rush back through the cooking area, avoiding the head cook who's complaining about meringues, up the staircase again, breath restrained, apron crooked. It's the lady. Her tone drifts from the wardrobe room. There's a blemish on the bottom edge. She raises a cotton gown, eyes narrowed. You peek and instantly locate it. Dirt, perhaps from the yard walkway. Or was that garment from the morning cycle? It couldn't be. She doesn't await your reasoning. This needs to be redone tomorrow, early. You acknowledge, express, regret. She doesn't regard you again. The gown is now your responsibility. Back downstairs, you submerge it into the delicate's basin and exhale. You'll be awake before sunrise tomorrow to hand clean it in heated lavender liquid and air dry it horizontally on a cotton cloth so it doesn't distort. But you can't fret about that currently, because it's time to press. You might assume pressing is the simple part, an opportunity to remain stationary, perhaps even warm your palms near the range, but that's only because you've never encountered a Victorian flat iron. There's no cord, no temperature control, no vapour function. Just a block of pure iron heated straight on the range until it's sufficient to make saliva sizzle. And no integrated method to determine when it's excessively hot or insufficiently warm. You sprinkle a bit of water on it. If it dances and evaporates in a hiss, it's likely prepared, likely with a dense pad underneath and a fabric sheet above. You lower it onto the first underskirt. Even gradual movements. No halting, no duplicate marks. The iron must slide like a skater on frozen water. Pause for an instant and you'll create a burn mark. And a burn mark, as you've been told repeatedly, means termination. Wrapped in fabric, you exchange irons, frequently. While one cools down, another heats up. There are at least 4 rotating near the range. You clutch them by thick wooden grips wrapped in material, your knuckles whitening from the mass. Now arrives the lace. Lace cannot be pressed the usual way. You utilize a ceramic container filled with hot liquid and carefully roll it over the material, coaxing out creases without crushing the pattern. Some households even demand lace neck pieces to be secured to a timber frame and left to air naturally. No warmth, no brightness, no folds. You absorbed that lesson the difficult way. Last week, a visiting relative appeared wearing a neck piece so delicate it resembled spider webbing. You'd never witnessed anything comparable. You grazed it just once, with the edge of a barely warm iron. It left a subtle yellow tint, the kind only a practiced eye would detect. The relative detected it. You spent the following day in the basement cleaning footwear and waste containers while the housekeeper determined whether you were redeemable. Today, you're being monitored again. The housekeeper passes by the washing area, arms folded, records in grip. She utters nothing, just examines the pressing pile, then at you. You nod respectfully. Continue pressing. By mid-afternoon, your shoulders feel disconnected. Your palms sting with minor burns, and the atmosphere smells of heated metal, moist fabric, and the subtle sourness of aged stiffener. Someone pushes open the entrance behind you. It's one of the sitting room workers. Ashen and nervous, she murmurs. The lady spilled organ sauce on the eating cloth. You need to. You understand. You sigh. Organ sauce is infamously greasy. You position the flat iron back on the range, gather the tablecloth into your grasp and head to the washing area. There's a method for this. You saturate the mark with fizzy water, let it settle, then carefully compress it between 2 white rags and iron it on minimal heat, hoping. The warmth draws the grease upward into the materials. It functions sometimes, but as you labour, a recollection surfaces. The head cook once shared a peculiar tip she learned from a previous position: crush chalk and massage it into the mark. Abandon it overnight. Extracts the grease, superior to vinegar. You peek at the ledge above there, a fragment of blackboard chalk. You pulverise it in your palm and dust it across the spot like a ceremony. Perhaps tomorrow it'll be eliminated. Perhaps tomorrow you'll still be present. The sun descends low behind the frosted pane. You shake out the concluding fabric, fold it accurately, and position it atop the collection. And for a quick instant, with the warmth of the iron still in your palms, you feel valuable. Not observed, not acknowledged, but valuable. You first detect it as a subtle clatter, like currency dropped onto timber. Then the unmistakable ping as a chime jiggles on its cable above the cooking area entrance. You glance up. The marker swings softly. Emerald's sitting room. Your breathing halts. The chime mechanism is the heartbeat of the complete manor. Each chamber overhead is connected to the workers' corridor underneath. Its own small brass trigger concealed inconspicuously by the entrance frame or next to the hearth. When activated, the action triggers a mechanical jiggle on a panel mounted above the storage room. Each designation is inscribed in black. Eating area, gentleman's chamber, morning parlour, and now emerald sitting room. One chime, one instruction. Abandon. Everything. Proceed. The complete rhythm of the estate bends around that solitary sound. You survey round. The footman is transporting a serving bowl of broth. The cooking assistant is peeling root vegetables. The head cook motions you away, mouth pursed. Depart then, swiftly. You wipe your palms on your apron and reach for the serving tray, just in preparation. Silverware polished, borders straight. A cloth, a candle, a bottle of fortified wine. You don't know what's required yet, but you will upon arrival. The rear staircase is cooler than the cooking area, bordered with emerald-painted panels and a subtle scent of finish. You move delicately, nearly on your toes. Sound is your adversary now. Overhead is a realm of fantasy. Nothing must suggest the labour churning beneath it. You push open the entrance to the emerald sitting room and enter inside. Lady Ashford perches rigidly on a cushioned seat, ankles aligned, encircled by needlepoint cushions and the subtle scent of garden flowers. She does not glance up. Her palms are clasped tightly over a closed-hand fan. She motions with 2 digits to the hearth. It's extinguished. You place down the tray and lower yourself. Obviously it has. The fuel hasn't been adjusted since the morning meal. You grab the poker from its holder and cautiously raise the iron grating. The cinders crumble in fragments like scorched parchment. You exhale softly, encouraging a crimson spark back to existence. Then feed it a few chunks from the container beside you. Behind you, the mistress murmurs, almost as if to nobody, "You're the recent one." You acknowledge without rotating. "Correct, ma'am." "Don't scrape the grating. I cannot tolerate that noise." You decelerate your motion instantly, angling the poker so it grazes only cinders. Victorian hearths aren't merely for warmth. They're spectacle pieces, evidence of fortune, of cultivation, of superiority. They must burn luminously, but never smell of fumes. Pop, but not excessively loudly. And you're the invisible flame attendant. The blaze flickers to existence, warm, golden, flawless. You stand, lower your head slightly, and retreat toward the entrance. She doesn't acknowledge you, that's not the tradition. But her gaze doesn't pursue you, and that's praise in itself. You slip out the entrance, shut it quietly, and descend the rear staircase again, swifter now. Another chime has sounded this time. Gentleman's office. You barely have opportunity to collect your breathing before you're ascending again, tray balanced, footwear hushed against the stair treads. You now understand by physical recall the marker indicated gentleman's office. That typically means one of three things: fortified wine, correspondence dispatched, or someone in difficulty. You hope it's fortified wine. At the entrance, you halt, tap once. You detect a muffled affirmative. Inside, the gentleman sits behind a massive mahogany workspace, half consumed in tobacco haze. The drapes are pulled despite the daylight. A solitary lamp flickers beside his writing stand, projecting long shadows on the spines of leather-bound volumes. He motions to the tray. Place it there and locate the letter opener. You notice it immediately, tucked beneath a stack of mail. Ivory grip, blunt edge. You retrieve it and present it, grip first. He accepts it without acknowledgement, just mutters. "Where's Haynes, the head servant?" "You have zero notion, sir." "I believe he's downstairs," you respond gently. He grunts. "Excessive wine last evening, without question." He splits open correspondence with the letter opener, scowling at the contents. Then, almost casually, he states, "Retrieve the records, the one for estate accounts." You blink. That's not your responsibility. That's the housekeeper's territory. But you acknowledge, withdrawing without a noise, and head toward the housekeeper's chamber, a narrow space tucked between the storage room and a service hallway. Mrs. Penworthy is there, spectacles balanced at the border of her nose, already inscribing in the precise volume you've arrived to collect. She doesn't glance up. Anticipating it, is he? You acknowledge. She exhales, raises the records slowly and dusts the cover with a handkerchief before transferring it over. He'll be searching for the fabric order. Inform him it was modified. She altered her mind about the decorative stitching again. You acknowledge, though you don't comprehend half of it. Back in the office, you pass it over. He flips through pages filled with inked figures and tiny notations. Orders for lamp fuel, tally marks beside cuts of meat, strange abbreviations for candle counts and starch shipments. He pauses, squinting. What's this? Expense for parlour replacement fabric. You freeze. Zero notion. Retrieve Penworthy. You're dismissed again. As you withdraw, a subtle smile curves at the border of your thoughts. Not happiness, but understanding. You're beginning to perceive how the manor functions. The chimes are merely the beginning of it. The genuine authority exists in the records. It's the manuscript for this spectacle, and the more you witness, the more distinctly you perceive who revises the production behind the curtain. You return the tray to the cooking area. The tea's gone frigid. Someone's scorched the roast. The head cook is yelling again. It's 3:17 in the afternoon. A visiting caller has just appeared and the front hallway is filled with voices. The household chime sounds again. 3 rapid pings. Visitor chamber. The worker who's meant to respond is weeping in the washing area. Nobody speaks to her, you're informed. The lady called her a little weight with pudding digits, and she hasn't uttered a word since. You proceed in her stead. Clean water, a blossom in a container, matches position beside the hearth. As you straighten the bed cover, you glimpse yourself in the looking glass again. Same features, but something has transformed. You've begun to shift like one of them, soundlessly, tactically, like a phantom in your own existence. And that, here, is endurance. Down you proceed again, back past the murmuring corridor, past the washing girl still curled next to the range, and into the very core of the manor, the basement cooking area. It isn't the cosy, welcoming hearth you might envision from a children's tale. This is a combat zone, and right now it smells like blood, onions, and overcooked veal. The range is roaring, iron scorching, every burner ignited. A pan of animal fat hisses furiously in the corner. The head cook, Mrs. Dobbin, is bellowing like a commander with gout. You call that a proper chop? This is an eating table, not a sheepdog kennel. A younger cooking assistant trembles as she retrims the cutlets. You step around them cautiously, narrowly avoiding a basin of marrow bones meant for broth. The floor is slick from someone toppling over the barley water an hour earlier. You keep your stability, barely. This is your genuine education. Forget the overhead sitting rooms. Down here, protocol means staying out of Mrs. Dobbin's blade arc and knowing when to close the storage chamber entrance without slamming it. You're handed a bowl of potatoes. No words, just eyes that communicate. Peel rapidly and don't complain. You begin. The peeler is dull. The potatoes have sprouted, tiny pink eyes that stare back at you in quiet resentment. Your palms work quickly, efficiently, one after the following, into the liquid. You discover your rhythm until you flinch. A cleaver lands 2 inches from your elbow with a meaty thunk. Mrs. Dobbins slicing through a joint with grim determination, muttering about overcooked game birds and callers who couldn't tell a grouse from a herring. Nobody answers her. They know superior. You peek at the preparation table. Ducks are being tied, pudding stirred. A fish with features like a scowl lies in wait for butter and herbs. Everything is planned down to the instant. The courses must follow a strict choreography. Broth, fish, meat, game, sweets, nuts, and fruit. And then, after all that, cheese. All of it begins here, where perspiration glistens on foreheads and sauces separate when the entrance opens too frequently. But here's something nobody tells you about the Victorian cooking area. It's not merely about warmth and timing, it's also about hierarchy. There's a silent ladder, head cook at the summit, washing area at the bottom. Footmen drift in and out like privileged diplomats. But the cooking staff, they must dance in position. Never sit, never halt, never speak unless addressed. You witness a moment of silent rebellion. One of the veteran assistants, Thomas, the one with the damaged tooth and always a jest, slips a sliver of roast between his digits. He raises it to his mouth. The housekeeper would deduct his compensation. The head cook would scream. But he pops it in anyway. He catches your eye and winks. Some transgressions are worthwhile. And then the rhythm picks up again. The chime is sounded for the first course. Plates are arranged, trays are loaded. The footman appears, gloves immaculate, and sweeps in like a prince among peasants. "Prepared," he states coolly. Mrs. Dobbins snorts. "Prepared yesterday." He raises the tray, rotates, departs. And just like that, the show commences overhead. Candles flicker, china glimmers. Conversation rises. "Down here?" You grab another potato because course 2 is approaching soon. The second course isn't merely food, it's tactics. You're not merely peeling vegetables anymore. You're dodging elbows, ducking beneath trays, and learning how to make yourself smaller than the vapour curling off the pudding basin. The cooking area is alive, feral, a giant metal mouth chewing through butter, meat and nerves, temperature too minimal. The assistant shouts from the range. "Your features are too minimal," barks Mrs. Dobbin, not even glancing up as she fillets a fish with surgical vengeance. She's testing sauces now, dipping a scorched spoon into a row of copper pans. Onion, thyme, lemon. One is excessively sharp. She curses, adds wine, tastes again, acknowledges. All is forgiven. You transport a tray of empty serving bowls to the washing area, but halfway there you detect something behind you, a whimper. It's the cooking assistant again. Maggie. She sliced her digit while paring turnips and is attempting not to weep. On the floor next to the icebox you pass her a scrap of fabric. She compresses it to her hand and murmurs, "That's the second one today." You acknowledge but keep shifting. Nobody bleeds for long in this manner. You either wrap it or you depart. The third course is already being arranged, roasted duck in currant sauce on china so delicate it might shatter beneath the mass of the spoon. One of the footmen returns, features crimson. Caller complained about the broth, stated it was lukewarm. Mrs. Dobbins slams the ladle down. Inform him to consume faster. She mutters something about weak palates and stronger poisons, then acknowledges at you. You bring up the replacement plate. 3. You freeze. This is recent. You're trusted to transport something overhead. The plate trembles in your grasp as you arrange it exactly so. A fan of duck breast, thin sliced, a spoonful of sauce, not excessive, a sprig of herb positioned by Mrs. Dobbin herself, like a commander pinning a medal before combat. You transport it up the service stairs. Each step feels like an examination. One slip, one stumble. The scent of roasted meat and warm fat floats upward, intoxicating, and you realise you haven't consumed since sunrise. But you don't let your grip falter. You reach the eating area entrance. A footman cracks it open, takes the tray without a word, and closes it again. That's your reward. You return downstairs to a different combat zone. The aftermath. The pots are towering. The pudding basin resembles it exploded. The gravy boat has a crack down the side, and the scent of clove and regret. You're handed a rag and pointed toward the spill by the service lift. Mind the grease, someone states. You scrub and scrub and scrub. You scrape burned batter from a copper pan while Mrs. Dobbin laughs heartily at something the washing boy stated about a pineapple gone soft. Someone makes a jest about serving eels and custard. They wouldn't know the difference. Overhead, you manage a chuckle, barely, as the evening winds down. The final course is removed, but the cooking area doesn't sleep. There's still washing, still fabrics to organise, still the hearth to bank, still a pan of lamb fat to render for tallow. But you, just for an instant, you lean against the stone wall, eyes shut as the warmth of the range kisses your cheek. And in that half instant of quiet, with your apron saturated and your digits shriveled, you realise something. The cooking area might be hell, but it's also dwelling. The eating area is hushed now, drenched in candlelight and clinking glass. You're not in it, obviously, but you understand the sound. You've learned the rhythm of silverware, the hush of napkin against chin, the pregnant pause before someone requests more fortified wine. You remain just beyond the entrance, compressed against the panel, holding your breathing. When the chime sounds, 3 brief pings. It means remove the first course. That's your signal. You and another worker slip in through the service entrance like phantoms, eyes lowered, posture flawless. You do not speak. The table is an absurd vision. Duck bones glistening on porcelain, fish heads propped like relics, half-consumed rolls resting on embroidered napkins. You scoop up plates, soundlessly, attempting not to gag at the mix of clove sauce, organ paste, and half-melted aspic. The gentlemen don't notice you. They're laughing now, crimson in the features. The ladies are quieter, eyes darting to each other. When someone mentions the stock market or the colonies, one guesses something about the recent uprising in India. Another jests that tea might rise in cost. You keep your grip steady as you raise another tray back through the side entrance, down the stairs into the corridor, and immediately into the washing area, where dishes clang and vapour clouds your sight. Here's something nobody tells you. Workers don't clean silverware with polish. Not at first. You take the forks, still slick with pheasant grease, and begin rubbing them down with balls of stale bread. It absorbs the oil superior to cloth, and bread is cheap. The crusts come from the ends of loaves not fit for the household. What doesn't clean forks is later dried and fed to ducks. Nothing is wasted, not even crumbs. As you labour, the entrance creaks. Mr. Haynes, the head servant, walks in. His immaculate tailcoat, flawless white gloves, somehow still white, his tone low and clipped. They've requested devilled kidneys. Midnight snack? Lady Ashford has a headache. You acknowledge, already rotating toward the storage area. In the Victorian realm, eating isn't merely a meal, it's theatre. It's proof of fortune, of cultivation of superiority. Every course, every beverage pairing, every ridiculous decorative garnish is a social manoeuvre. You slice into a jar of preserved kidneys, one of the more vulgar delicacies, truth be told, and prepare them with mustard, cayenne, and just a hint of anchovy paste. The scent is revolting, but the upper crust adores it. The dish must be served scorching, sizzling, so once again you load the tray back up the stairs through the hush. The sitting room entrance creaks. Lady Ashford sits alone, her hair down, her feet rest on an ottoman. She does not appear well. She doesn't acknowledge you. You place the tray on the side table, adjust the fabric napkin, and bow. As you rotate to depart, she speaks. "Excessive fortified wine," she mutters. You halt. "I'll bring ginger liquid, ma'am," she acknowledges, faintly. "And some ice, if there's any remaining." You withdraw downstairs again. You cross to the ice container, massive oak, framed, chilled by a block hauled in from the canal just that morning. Ice is precious. It melts rapidly. But tonight there's just sufficient. You chisel off 2 small chips and wrap them in fabric. This time, when you return and pass them to her, she regards you for the first time. Not warmly, not cruelly. "Just exhausted," she states. "Leave the lamp." The darkness makes it worse. You acknowledge, step back, shut the entrance gently. The corridor swallows you once more, and as you descend into the warmth of the cooking area again, you wonder who's genuinely in command in this manner. The eating area spectacle may be finished, but your shift is far from concluded. The aftermath commences with silverware. Each fork, spoon, and butter blade must be cleaned, inspected, polished, and returned to its accurate slot in the sideboard drawers. The head servant oversees it all, Mr. Haynes leaning in soundlessly now and then, his breathing faintly smelling of fortified wine, his gloved digit tracing along the border of a spoon, as if examining for invisible flaws. He's not the yelling type. Worse, he's the disappointed silence type. When he discovers a streak, he simply regards you, just regards, and somehow that burns longer than words. The silverware cloths are already moist from use, the candles dripping their final wax onto the borders of the work table. You massage each piece in small circles, grip aching, digits cramping one by one. The blades gleam again like nothing ever grazed them except your palms. The trickiest items are the fish servers with their ornate piercings and delicate inlays, and heaven help you if one of the pastry forks has gone missing. That occurred once, last winter. The result? Every worker secured inside for 2 days, searching every drawer, fabric hamper and waste container until it was discovered. Discovered wedged behind a coal container, rusted with neglect. They deduct the worker's compensation anyway. As you position the final spoon into its velvet-lined tray, you peek up at the worker's chime panel. Still, blessedly still, but you understand superior than to trust it, so you examine the records. Each evening, before the estate retires, the housekeeper walks the manor with a notebook, logging which candles have burned minimal, which fabrics are marked for bleaching, which storage room jars need replenishing. She records the accurate mass of soap remaining in the washing area, the quantity of starch packets utilised, the status of the overhead decanters. And you're anticipated to read it, to learn from it, to obey it like scripture. You notice a notation scribbled in her cursive cooking assistant broke china serving bowl, order replacement before Sunday, reassigned to hallway cleaning duty. You wince. That's Maggie. You peek across the cooking area. She's scrubbing the flagstones on her knees, her bandaged palm trembling from the frigid water. She doesn't glance up. The footman returns with the concluding glasses from the sitting room. Cut crystal rims still ringed with wine. One glass is cracked. He shrugs. Don't inform Haynes. You acknowledge, take it gently, and position it aside later to be reported, obviously. You're not risking your neck for a footman with slicked hair and a smug smile. The breadboard gets scrubbed, the cheese blades dried, the candlesticks wiped of the wax, the tablecloths whisked away for saturating. Even the hearth in the eating area will be swept. Though it wasn't ignited tonight, it might have been, and that's reason sufficient. At last, the cooking area clock strikes 11. The head cook has retired, the hearth is banked, and Mr. Haynes, eyes sharp despite the hour, declares the hallway prepared to be secured. "Rear stairs now," he states. You acknowledge, strip off your apron, and follow the quiet exodus of workers up the service staircase, one by one, in single file, like phantoms returning to their crypt. You reach your attic chamber, bare timber, iron bedstead, scratchy blanket, and collapse without removing your footwear. Beyond, the city hums faintly. Inside, the chime panel waits because morning always sounds again. The summons arrives just after sunrise. You're barely conscious, rubbing sleep grit from your eyes when the housekeeper raps on the dormitory entrance. 3 taps, not urgent but firm. Lady Ashford requests assistance in her wardrobe chamber. You sit up slowly. The atmosphere bites your flesh. No hearth ignited overhead yet. Your limbs are sore from yesterday's scrubbing. Your digits still hold the phantom ache of raising trays and polishing silverware. But you stand anyway. You always stand. In estates like this. Dressing the mistress is a ceremony, not a chore. You wash your features with a cloth dipped in a frigid basin, secure your hair, straighten your bodice, and make your way up the rear stairs. You understand how this proceeds. You've heard the other workers talk. She wants a worker with quiet digits and a steady gaze, one who doesn't chatter, one who doesn't flinch. You tap gently. Enter. Her wardrobe chamber is soft, illuminated by the morning sun filtered through gauze curtains. The scent is familiar, lavender liquid, starch and faint perfume. Lady Ashford perches at her vanity in a quilted robe, staring into the looking glass. Not at you? Not at anything. Genuinely. Her tone is clipped but exhausted. Lay out the blue walking gown, the one with the fasteners. And bring the hairbrush. You understand the one. You cross the chamber to the wardrobe, push open the heavy panel doors and reveal a forest of garments. Linen, silk, damask, satin, each labelled by season, occasion and formality. You discover the blue gown, cautious not to graze the lace excessively and position it across the chaise. Then the brushes, boar bristle, tortoise shell grip, a matching comb. She doesn't speak again. As you shift behind her, you begin brushing long, even strokes from crown to shoulder, never tugging. Her hair is finer than you anticipated, greying but still thick. You glimpse her eyes in the looking glass. She never closes her eyes, yet she clearly observes you. When you brush her hair aside, you make out a faint line, a scar near her hairline, almost lost in the roots. It looks old and slight. You never ask. Of course not. Instead, you gently ask, "Would you prefer it pinned or in a braid today, Mum?" She lets out a slow breath. A braid. This is unusual. You start braiding carefully, the hair strands feeling warm under your hands. You recall the kitchen girl once commenting that their heads are heavier than ours from all the metal pins. You had laughed back then. You feel no humour now. When the plait is finished, she raises a hand to feel it. "It is tidy," she states, her voice giving nothing away. You simply nod and wait. She rises deliberately, moving behind the folding screen. You assist with the corset lacing, trying hard not to inhale too loudly. She winces as you pull it tight. "Too much dessert last night," she murmurs. Don't speak a word. You wouldn't dream of saying anything. The dress goes on next, made of blue wool, tailored bodice, pearl buttons. You help her step into it, guiding the sleeves, positioning the shoulders, smoothing the skirt. Finally, she's dressed. But she remains still. She pauses by the mirror, gazing not at her reflection, but perhaps through it. "Have you ever worn a gown like this?" she asks. You instantly freeze. "No, ma'am." "Don't," she advises. "It binds you and makes others think you are content when you are not." Then she raises her chin. "Retrieve my gloves." You do, and the moment is broken. You return with her gloves, soft kid leather with pearl buttons at the wrist, still retaining a subtle scent of rose oil and closet sachets. She does not look at you as she draws them on, her fingers stiff with either age or pride. You offer the final button hook, which she accepts silently. You know you must only leave once she gives the signal. It comes a moment later. Inform Mr. Haynes I will be taking my morning walk, and bring me my parasol, the pale one, not the dark. I am not in mourning. You acknowledge her. By the time you return from the umbrella stand, she is gone. Only a slight dip in the cushion and the lingering hint of her scent remain. But your tasks are not finished. You are met in the passage by the housekeeper, who gives you a folded message. The seal is intact, but the paper feels damp. Deliver this to the footman in the entrance hall discreetly. You carry out the task, and in return the footman, powdered and overly conscious of his collar, leans close and says she's visiting her sister again. Do you think it is about that doctor in Mayfair? Poor fellow. You offer no response. Downstairs, Maggie is polishing the library again. Her bandaged hand shakes, but she makes no complaint. She hums softly, the way she does whenever her thoughts stray too far from her work. You pass the parlour and spot a snag in the curtain fringe. It ought not to matter, but it bothers you. You silently note it and report it to the housekeeper, who records it in her book with a nod. You are attentive, she says, without looking up. You feel a surge of satisfaction internally, though your face remains impassive. That evening, while helping remove Lady Ashford's gloves and undo the dress, her voice softens. My sister mentioned I look tired, she murmurs. You do not reply. There is no safe answer, but after a moment she adds, You perform your duties well. Then she blinks. As if surprised, she said it aloud. You hang the dress with care, fold the gloves, brush her hair, turn down the bed covers exactly as she prefers, folded only on the left side. As you reach for the oil lamp, she says, You bring to mind someone I once knew before my marriage. She was always watching, like you, always listening. You pause. She closes her eyes. That is not a criticism. You turn down the lamp's wick. The room is enveloped in soft shadows. Downstairs again, the other maids are already cleaning the evening dishes, arguing over who neglected the laundry fire. You join them quietly, the warmth of that small compliment still nestled inside you like a hidden letter. Later you find Maggie alone, folding cloth napkins with her good hand. Do they ever truly see us? She asks abruptly. You look at her. Not entirely, you say. She nods, not with disappointment, but confirming a long-held belief. Then she smiles faintly and says, That is why I hum. If they do not see me, they might at least hear me. You return to your folding. You do not hum, but tonight, for the first time, you consider it. You have memorized the sequence by now. Rule 1, avoid being seen. Rule 2, avoid being heard. Rule 3, always be aware of who might be observing, which is why you have learned to use the secret staircases. They are not explicitly forbidden, simply built to be unnoticed. Narrower than the family's impressive marble stairs, these service stairs wind behind the walls like veins through a body. Bare wood, no carpet, the kind of stairs where a single wrong creak might cost you your job. You use them now, balancing a stack of folded napkins, navigating the dark turns. By instinct, you have counted them countless times. 26 steps from the scullery to the linen closet, 42 from the butler's pantry to the nursery landing. Every grand house has its hidden network. Servants' passageways they are called. Complete hallways behind wood panelling, hidden doors, tucked into recesses, even small sliding hatches in the walls through which trays can be passed unseen. Some call it clever design. You call it a feeling of being closed in, with hinges. This morning you were sent to the upstairs parlour with a rolled carpet runner. You use the servant stair naturally, but as you reach the second floor, a sound stops you, a sudden sharp click of a door up ahead. You quickly press your back against the wall. Footsteps. Not quick, not loud, but deliberate. A gentleman's steps. You hold your breath. The passage you are in has no windows, only a single wall lamp flickering dimly. If he turns this way, the footsteps continue past. A door clicks shut again. You let out your breath, slow. That was Mr. William, the oldest son, home from university, pale, rigid, arrogant, and rumoured to enjoy disappearing into the study with unpaid debts and too much brandy. You wait 10 full seconds, then continue. Once in the parlour, you unroll the runner and straighten the rug fringe. Your hands move with practised precision, without thought. You no longer question the need to adjust furniture that has not been disturbed. You simply act. There is a method to surviving in this house. Know which footsteps to fear. Heavy ones signal a footman, sharp ones. Heels mean the housekeeper. Barely audible, swishing ones are Lady Ashford. But the worst is the sudden silence that means someone is already there, waiting. You learn to cough softly before turning a corner. You pretend to adjust a flower arrangement just to delay entering a room. One error, and you could find yourself face to face with a guest in their dressing gown who then accuses you of trespassing. Dismissal. No recommendation. It has happened before. Backstairs rules are never written down. But you know them all now. Do not stand in front of a window. Do not pass the family in a hall. Do not speak unless addressed. Do not eat where you might be observed. Do not ask why someone is no longer here. That last one is the hardest. Because today you realise something. The parlour maid, Elsie, the one who always whistled while polishing the silver candlesticks, she is gone. No explanation, no rumour. Just an empty seat at the table during supper, a vacant hook where her apron used to hang. You ask Maggie quietly, "Did she leave?" Maggie shrugs. "I suppose," but she avoids your gaze. You return to the corridor, pick up your tray, step lightly, and when you hear a distant creak from above, your head snaps upward because you just remembered Elsie was always the one who cleaned the study after midnight, and now that task might fall to you. The study at night is a different kind of challenge. By day it is a place of uncomfortable chairs and cigar smoke, where the master grumbles over account books and guests sip brandy while pretending not to fall asleep. But after dark, when the fire dies down and the halls go quiet, it becomes heavier, as if the velvet curtains have absorbed too many secrets. And tonight you have been instructed to clean it. Elsie's job, now yours. You step in, tray in hand, duster, polishing cloth, small brush for the fireplace. Ash. The desk remains open, an ink stain dried mid-drip. A letter lies half-folded beneath a paperweight shaped like a lion. You do not read it, you would not dare, but your eyes cannot help noticing the name on the envelope. Ms. E. Merton, Elsie's last name. Your hands grow still, the air feels colder. You dust quickly, automatically. The bookshelves are tall, the bindings leather and worn. Some of the titles you cannot pronounce. One is missing its cover, concealed behind a mounted owl. You lift the glass dome to polish the base and notice a strange strand of hair caught beneath the glass. Blonde, much too light to be yours. You set the dome back down. You are not here to investigate, only to tidy. The hearth contains old coal, still warm at the bottom. You sweep them up carefully, then gently stir the fire with the poker to see if it needs new kindling. That is when you hear it. A whisper, not clear words, just the sound of two people talking. Soft, fast. Behind the wall, the servant corridor. You move to the wooden panel near the bookshelf and press your ear against the gap. Nothing now, but the air on the other side is moving, breathing. You back away slowly. Someone is there. Someone knows you heard. You finish tidying in half the usual time. The polish on the drawer handles is uneven, but you cannot bear to stay longer. You offer a small bow to the empty room as if excusing yourself from a presence, then close the door with both hands and carefully turn the handle shut. Back in the servants' hall, no one looks up when you return. They are finishing their meal. bread crusts, cold tea, and silence. You sit. Across from you, Maggie mouths the word study. You nod. She raises her eyebrows, then says nothing further. But later, as you hang up your apron, you find something unusual in your pocket. Not yours. Folded linen, no stitching, tucked inside, a note written in pencil smudged with coal dust. It reads, "Watch the butler's keys. Not all doors are locked for your benefit." No signature, no name. Just that. You fold it quickly, slide it beneath your mattress. And as you lie in the dark, staring at the sloping ceiling of the attic room, the creaks and groans of the old house seem louder than usual, because now you know what no servant is meant to know. The house listens, and sometimes it answers. The scullery is hotter than ever this morning, and not only from the steam. Rumours spread faster than the dishwater. Something is different. You sense it. Someone whispers about a missing bottle of fine wine. Someone else swears they saw the housekeeper check her record book twice last night. Even the cook is quieter today, slicing celery with far too much concentration. But it is not the wine or the books that have everyone nervous and speaking in half sentences. It is Elsie, or more accurately, where Elsie might have gone. You do not join the conversation. You just keep scrubbing, listening, hands in greasy water, attention in 10 directions. A new girl has arrived. Thin, pale, barely 16. She is already on her knees, polishing boot buckles with chalk paste. Someone says she came from a home near Chelsea, was dismissed for sloppiness. Another says she ran away. Another says the master had been visiting the Chelsea house more often than necessary. You do not ask. You simply make a note of her eyes, too wide, too quiet. Later that morning, you pass the wine cellar on your way to the pantry. The butler is there. Mr. Haynes stands with the door open, examining the shelves, his keyring hanging heavily from his belt. He counts the bottles aloud, his brow wrinkled. There is a reddish mark on the cuff of his shirt, perhaps port wine or something else. You wait, tray in hand. He glances at you once and only says, "Get the cook." You nod, but as you turn, your eyes quickly dart to the far shelf behind him. One bottle is gone from the marked row. In its place, something has been shoved into the empty space. A small handkerchief, crushed, light pink, embroidered with a single letter E. You say nothing. You walk away. Back in the scullery, Maggie leans in, voice lowered. "You saw something, did you not?" You shake your head. She sighs. They always assume we do not notice. You look around. The kitchen boy has burns on his wrists. The new girl from Chelsea will not speak above a whisper. And the cook has begun locking the pantry at night, even though no one would dare steal, not after last year. In the servants' hall that evening, the girls are talking again. But it is not about the master or the lady this time. It is about the wine cellar. They say it is colder than it ought to be, that the last scullery maid, who got too curious, came back shivering and mute, that sometimes you can hear footsteps there after the lamps are out. You do not believe in ghosts, but you do believe in locked doors and missing keys and notes left in pockets, and you start to wonder, what if? This house keeps its secrets, not just behind its walls, but within them. That night, as you fold linens in the quiet of the laundry room, you discover another clue. Not concealed, simply forgotten. A piece of ribbon tucked behind the soap blocks, pale blue, ripped at one end. You know it. Elsie wore it in her hair daily. You hold it for a moment, then slide it into your apron pocket. Not out of fear, but loyalty. Whatever happened in this house, someone should remember her, even if no one else dares to speak her name. Later that night you find yourself scrubbing pots alone, long after the others have left to fold napkins or count spoons. The scullery is dark, the fire banked, the echoes louder. You are elbow deep in a stew pot when you hear it, soft voices through the vent, not in the kitchen. Beneath it, there is a crawl space below the scullery. You have never been permitted in, not officially. You asked once, months ago, and the cook snapped. That is where the rodents go to die. Do not even look at the hatch. You look now. There is a loose stone tile near the coal scuttle. You have noticed it before. Nothing unusual, just loose. But tonight it seems more deliberate. The voices below grow more distinct. You cannot make out the words, only the tones. Hushed, urgent, stressed. You kneel, shift the tile with a soft grating sound. Cold air rushes up from the darkness. A stone tunnel barely wide enough to crawl through disappears into blackness. A row of dirty, dust-covered wine bottles lines the opening like uneven teeth. And there, just inside, you see it. A spot of pale blue. The ribbon. It is tied to a rusty nail. Deliberate. You do not move because footsteps approach. You replace the tile, wipe your hands, pick up a pan, scrub as if you have been there the whole time. Mr. Haynes enters. He does not speak right away, just watches you with his usual impassive calm. His gloves are off, tucked into one hand. The other rests on his keyring, his thumb tracing a long iron key. "You have been thorough," he says at last. You nod. "Yes, sir, I expect nothing less." He glances at the hearth where the last embers glow like watchful eyes. "Then do not stay up too late. You will need your rest tomorrow. Important guests." He leaves. You count 5 full minutes before you breathe again. At breakfast, the tension remains like grease on silver. The cook is more irritable than usual. Maggie drops a plate. No one laughs. And in the hallway near the laundry, someone has erased Elsie's name from the duty schedule, just rubbed it completely away. You check your pocket. The blue ribbon is still there, folded like a secret. Later, as you sweep the front hall, a job they rarely entrust to you, you catch sight of the master talking with a man in a long grey coat. Not a guest, not a friend. He holds a notebook, wears gloves indoors. His eyes dart around, scanning as they speak. The master says something that makes the man pause. You catch a phrase. Servants disappear constantly. The man does not agree. His brow furrows. You lower your gaze, keep sweeping. "That night in the servants' hall," Maggie whispers. "Did you see the investigator?" You nod. She leans in. "Perhaps now they will look. Maybe they will ask questions." You are not so sure, because in homes like this, questions are still dangerous, and answers even more so. You lie in your cot later, the ribbon still beneath your pillow, and listen to the sounds in the walls, the ones you now realise were never just the wind. And as you fall asleep, one final thought settles in your mind. In this house, silence is not only about surviving, it is mandatory. Time in this house does not progress, it repeats. By now you have started to notice it, the subtle routines, the unseen mechanisms that keep this grand operation running without ever changing. At first the days seemed chaotic, clanging bells, spilt fires, wine and shouted commands. But now you perceive it. Mrs. Ashford always asks for lavender water on Mondays. Mr. Haynes inspects the wine cellar every 3rd evening or always at dusk. Maggie hums the same melody when folding dinner napkins. Soft, high, slightly off-key. And upstairs the mistress has stopped wearing her blue dress. She says nothing about it, but it hangs untouched in the wardrobe now, the one you ironed so carefully only a week ago. In its place, darker shades, greys, navy, faded lilac. You were never told why, but that is how things work here. Things happen, no explanations, no announcements, only routines, and you are becoming very adept at understanding them. Take breakfast, for example. Every morning you hear the same argument between the younger Ashford son and his father, muffled through the floorboards. One wants to enlist in the Navy, the other insists he finish at Oxford first. Afterward the study bell always rings, sharp, impatient. "You bring tea?" "Strong, no sugar, you always did." But this morning something is different. As you pour, you notice a second teacup already sitting on the tray, unused bone china, gold-rimmed. Mr. Ashford does not acknowledge it, just stares out the window, his eyes on the carriage in the driveway. No guest has arrived. You glance at the second cup again. He follows your gaze. Then, softly, "My brother." He passed away in January. I cannot quite put it away yet. You nod once, eyes lowered, and quietly retreat. In the servants' hall, you compose a note in your head. January teacup. Morning routine still ongoing. Handle with care. That is how you operate now, like an observer, a silent watcher, logging every look, every sigh, every absence. You start to sense the emotional climate of the house long before a storm breaks. You can tell when the master has lost money. His footsteps get heavier. The study door slams more often, and he forgets to remove his gloves before eating. You can tell when the mistress is on the verge of tears. She calls for her tea, then lets it get cold. The second time it is sent up, she does not drink it either. Then she summons no one for the rest of the day. Even the cook, tough as she is, shows signs. On days she misses her late husband, the bread burns. She blames the oven, but you know the truth. No one ever speaks these things aloud, but in a house like this, emotions are woven into the fabric, tucked between meal courses, stitched into pillow seams, hidden behind the steady beat of the tall case clock in the parlour. And you read them, you record them in your memory like a second ledger. Because down here, knowledge is power, and if you know the right thing at the right time, you can avoid the next storm before it hits. Later that day, you stand in a back hallway, polishing the brass handles on the linen cupboard when you hear a new voice drift from the dining room. It is sharp, precise, a clipped tone you do not recognize. No wonder your household is disorganized. You do not rotate your staff correctly. You pause, cloth in hand. The voice belongs to a woman, self-assured, not family. You tiptoe closer. Through the door crack, you glimpse her. Mid-40s, richly dressed, hat still on indoors, a lorgnette glinting in her fingers like a weapon. She is speaking to both the housekeeper and the master. You should have records on every one of them. Curfews, disciplinary notes. Neglect them for 3 months and they start to wander, steal, break things. Or worse. The master turns his gaze from her. The housekeeper gives a tight, emotionless nod. I've witnessed it in finer homes than this, the woman comments. They vanish because you allow them to. You don't catch the reply. Someone moves past you from behind, forcing you to shift, but the comment sinks in, deep. They vanish because you allow them to. That evening you creep into the butler's pantry while Haynes is occupied upstairs. You are not stealing. You are searching. And you discover it. His key ring lying on top of a leather-bound ledger. It's not the one you've encountered before. This one is narrow, secured, covered in dark hide, with a red silk marker extending like a tongue. You freeze. Do you dare? No, you don't. But you do spot one detail before leaving. The initials carved into the side of the volume. EMLC. The red ribbon trembles as you quietly pull the door shut behind you. The following morning, the mistress asks for tea in the garden, a rare request. You carry the tray along the back path, under hedges recently pruned too low. The chill bites at your ankles. As you approach the iron patio table, you realise she has company. The woman from yesterday is present again. You pour the tea silently. As you stand straight, the woman turns and observes casually, "Ah, you must be the quiet one." You incline your head, uncertain if it is praise or a warning. She examines you. "And how long have you been employed here?" 4 months, ma'am." She smiles, without warmth. "Good. That's enough time to have observed everything, but not enough time to forget how it began." You do not respond. You curtsy and retreat, but your ears remain open as you depart. The woman lowers her voice, but you hear every word. You will want to monitor the butler. That night, Maggie leans across the table during the kitchen meal, eyes wide. Do you recognize that woman? She is from a different household, some official's wife or something dispatched here because of, well, you know. You nod slowly. "She inquired about Elsie," Maggie whispers. And the Chelsea girl, too. You look around. The kitchen is quieter tonight. The dish noise is muted, as if the walls themselves are listening once more. You withhold your thoughts, that the predictable routines you once found solace in are beginning to unravel, that the superficial calm conceals instability, that the house is starting to change, and someone with refined gloves and a secured book is resisting it. You never expected to miss the city residents, not the noisy floors, not the constant cleaning, certainly not the wine cellar with its dark secrets and deeper silences. But when the travel trunks emerge and the housekeeper starts snapping directives about winter coats and spare blankets, a strange heaviness settles in your stomach. The Ashfords are relocating. Not permanently, of course. Just for the summer season. It's a distinguished practice, upper-class families leaving London for their country property where the air is purer, the provisions supposedly fresher, and the social striving even fiercer. For the domestic staff, however, it is an absolute misery. You are awake before sunrise the next day, hauling bags, rolling up carpets, folding expensive dresses into tissue paper with shaky hands. Every belonging must be accounted for, nothing misplaced, nothing wrinkled. Every shoe must be matched, every hat its specific box. And naturally, the family travels by private carriage. You travel in the goods wagon, wedged between a container of silverware and a column of chamber pots. You share a hard wooden seat with Maggie and the junior footman, who is already asleep with his mouth open. The road jars your spine with every fault. Dust permeates your nose and mouth. Your teeth ache from the constant jarring. The sun beats down intensely. The wheels strain and squeak. A caged chicken squawks each time the cart lurches forward. It's a 4-hour journey. You remain completely silent the whole way. When you finally arrive, the country house spreads out before you like a scene taken from a different style of book. Expansive lawns, ivy-covered chimneys, windows like unblinking eyes that have watched for years. You try to feel impressed, but all you sense is apprehension, because every grand house possesses its own rhythm, its unique network of rules, stairways, hidden spots, and customs. And here you are, beginning again. Worse, the resident staff is already present. Estate servants, they dislike London's staff. You are met not with cheerful greetings, but with tight-lipped acknowledgements and prolonged stares. The butler here is older, more rigid, and wears a watch chain weighty enough to hang someone. The cook is a red-faced woman with one eye obscured by a cataract who addresses everyone as boy regardless of their gender. They don't ask your name, they demand your references. You glance at Mr. Haynes, hoping for some reassurance. He simply murmurs, "Fit in." So you attempt to. You claim you're assigned a narrow bed in the cramped attic room that now accommodates 12 instead of 8. You mark a boundary in the dust between your area and Maggie's. You unpack a single dress and secure your name to the hook with a safety pin, and then you proceed to the scullery again because even in the country someone is needed to prepare the vegetables. There is an unsettling quality to the country house. It's not the sounds of the structure settling, though there are many of those. It's the stillness. Not a peaceful stillness, but an anticipating one, as if the rooms are awaiting something and they are not waiting for you. That evening, as you carry fresh linens up to the west wing, a footman from the estate staff leans against the wall and advises, "Exercise caution up there. Some things prefer not to be disturbed." You let out a small laugh, assuming he is joking, but he does not return the laugh. He simply nods toward the door you are about to open and adds, "Particularly in that room." You open it anyway, because in this household you are still not permitted to question why. The room smells of stale dust and citrus polish. Thick curtains obscure most of the natural light, leaving the air cool and motionless. As your vision adjusts, you realise this space has not been attended to in months, perhaps longer. You place the bundle of linens gently on the cedar chest and observe your surroundings. High-backed chairs with crocheted arm coverings, a writing desk featuring a secured drawer, a pale outline on the wall where a framed picture once hung. The silence is so heavy it feels like a physical pressure against your back. You work quickly, Pillowcases first, then the bed covers. You understand the procedure now. Smooth the material, secure the edges, regulate your breathing. But as you lift the final folded sheet, something flutters down to the floor. Paper. A note, unsealed, with darkened edges. You hesitate. You ought to leave it where it dropped, but you do not. You pick it up and read just enough to recognize the name Elsie. The writing is distinct, flowing, quickly written in soft pencil. The date is 2 months past. From the city residence. Only a few lines are visible. I will enter through the west hallway. No one uses it anymore. Leave the entrance unlatched, just for a moment. Your stomach clenches. You replace the note exactly where it fell and silently complete the bed-making. The air feels colder now, despite the weak sunlight struggling against the drapes. As you exit into the corridor, Maggie is waiting. She does not ask what kept you, but when she sees your expression, her eyes narrow. You discovered something, didn't you? You remain mute, but she knows. The next few days pass in a blur of sharp wind and sore hands. The rural setting may be more attractive than London, but it is far less forgiving. You clean fireplaces choked with bone fragments. You sweep entranceways scattered with dead insects. The property dogs chase you every morning when you gather eggs, and through it all you sense it. Something is wrong. Upstairs, the mistress has grown paler still. She walks the gardens alone now, always wearing gloves, even when the weather is warm. The master argues with the estate manager behind closed doors. You overhear loud voices late at night, followed by a silence that seems to permeate the walls like decay. Then one morning, the elderly cook traps you by the cold storage area. Did they ever locate her? You pause. Locate who, ma'am? She squints, her cloudy eye gleams. The girl, the one from the London house, the one who always hummed. You stare blankly. Didn't think so, she mutters. They never do. Country or city, it is always the same result. They cover it up with formalities and desserts and pray nobody asks questions. She walks away, complaining about offal and seasoning. That night, as you fold linens next to Maggie, you finally whisper, Elsie left a letter. She was going to meet someone in the west hallway. Maggie turns slowly. She never arrived there. You nod. She might have. Both of you fall silent, your hands continuing to move, and the hallway, quiet all this time, suddenly feels extremely, extremely close. The west hallway starts where the staff area concludes. It is the oldest section of the dwelling, predating the Ashfords, older than the main wing, older even than the gaslights that never quite extended this far. You only ever traverse it when delivering linens to the guest suites that no one occupies, or when cleaning the windows that no one opens. But now you are observing it closely, because Maggie has started folding her sheets in a new way, not carelessly, but intentionally. The third fold lags one beat behind the second. It's a signal, a private sequence. The two of you established it last winter when the housekeeper's hearing was most acute and Elsie had taken to weeping during meal preparation. Now it signifies tonight. Watch. You acknowledge this with a single nod and say nothing. The day unfolds as usual. Mrs. Ashford sips her tea but leaves the cookie untouched. Mr. Haynes adjusts the decorative sherry bottles, although none have been consumed. A bird is prepared in the kitchen and someone drops a bowl. No one admits to it. And the entire time the west hallway is dormant until it isn't. At 9:30, you and Maggie offer to handle extra linens. No one questions it. You light a small candle, cannot risk the oil lamps here, and proceed down the narrow passage. The floorboards protest differently in this part of the house. Longer, slower, as if resisting each tread. At the far end is a door that hasn't been opened in months, perhaps years. It leads nowhere now, they claim, just a storage area. Possibly an old set of steps that was sealed off long ago. But someone Elsie once left a note saying she would be waiting here. You press your ear to the timber. Silence. Then a faint noise, like a shift in weight on the other side. You exchange a look with Maggie. She displays a skeleton key taken days earlier from Haynes's ring when he left it near the alcohol log. You nod. The lock turns. The door groans open. And there, behind layers of dust and cobwebs, lies a staircase. Narrow stone steps disappearing into absolute blackness. It is not on the property blueprints. It is not mentioned in the records. It is not supposed to exist. You step inside. The atmosphere changes immediately. Cold, dense, metallic, like the structure's foundation is inhaling. Each descending step echoes strangely, absorbed before it can rebound. The walls are close, rough stone, slick with moisture. You count your steps. 13, 14, 15. At 21, the stairs terminate. A small brick room appears before you, empty, almost. In the centre sits a wooden chair tilted slightly on its side. A broken ceramic cup rests near one of the legs. A small cloth is folded beneath it, pale blue. Maggie picks it up, her hands trembling. Elsie's. You turn toward the rear wall, where something subtle gleams in the candlelight. A hinge. A disguised panel. You don't open it? Not yet, because behind you, at the top of the stairs, you hear the softest noise. A door closing. You don't draw a breath, not initially. You simply look up, the candle shaking in your hand, listening as the silence intensifies above, a slow, intentional hush, as if the house itself is holding its breath alongside you. Then a light click. The door is secured. Maggie says nothing, but her eyes are wide, her lips pressed together tightly. She grips the cloth in her hand like a protective charm, her knuckles pale. You don't panic, not yet. Instead, you turn back to the hinged panel you noticed behind the chair. It is barely the size of a cabinet door, framed in brass flush with the stone wall. You drop to your knees and trace the edges with your fingers. There is no handle, but there is an indentation in the stone right beside it, like something once rested there. You recall Haynes's key ring, the long metal shaft. You try the skeleton key Maggie used. Nothing. She kneels next to you. We shouldn't be here. You glance at the handkerchief again, pale blue, neatly folded, left for someone to discover. You look at Maggie. That is exactly why we are. You press your palm against the panel. It doesn't swing inward, but it shifts just slightly, not in, but sideways. You both push. Dust showers from the ceiling as the panel yields with a deep groan. Behind it, another corridor, lower, more confined. A tunnel carved from rough soil, supported by ancient wooden beams. The air is colder here, heavier, smells of moisture and copper and something older than memory. You exchange a glance with Maggie. Then you both crawl inside. The tunnel extends longer than anticipated, 10, 15 metres. The ground slopes slightly downward. Your candle flickers in the stale air, and shadows dance across the beams, turning them into silent observers. Then another door, wood, plain, without markings. You reach for the latch. It is already unlocked. Inside, the space is barely larger than a storage closet, just enough room for a person to sit or squat or conceal themselves. And on the floor lies a book. Not the housekeeper's, not the alcohol inventory, a different one. The first page is covered with names, not family staff. Each entry lists a name, a commencement date, and chillingly, a final column that simply states cleared. Dozens of names, some marked out, some smeared, some you recognise. You find Elsie's. Her row is not crossed out. It concludes with a transfer. Incomplete, held. Your throat tightens. You turn the page. Another set of entries. Deliveries, dates, amounts, candles, tea, medicine. Then, written in heavy recent ink. One word. Discard. You close the book. Maggie's eyes are filled with terror. What is this? she whispers. But you already know. This was not just a service tunnel. This was not just where someone vanished. It was where they... Contained. You crawl back the way you entered, the book tucked under your arm, your heart pounding. When you reach the bottom of the stairs again, the door is open. No sounds of movement, no voices, only the gaping darkness above. You climb quickly, partly pulling Maggie behind you, back into the corridor, back into the main house. And as you emerge into the hallway, the candle barely lit. You notice a single set of footprints in the dust, polished footwear, men's size, heading away from the door toward the butler's living area. You don't pursue them, not tonight. But you will, because now you comprehend the pattern beneath all the other patterns, the true one, and you fully intend to disrupt it. The next morning arrives too. Bright sunlight streams across the cleaned floors of the country house like it belongs there, warming polished wood and highlighting specks of dust you are too exhausted to deal with. But the staff wakes up as always. Bells chime, boots stamp, dishes clatter. Only you and Maggie are aware of what lies beneath the floorboards, and the book now concealed beneath your mattress. You barely slept, but you rise on time. Because today is the staff ball, an annual tradition, one night of the year when, if the family is in a good mood, the household staff is allowed a few hours of regulated freedom. A meal of reserved delicacies, music from a rented violin, dancing in the rear hallway, laughter, usually subdued, now permitted to be loud. Of course, it remains work. You spend the morning stiffening petticoats and shining shoes. Maggie is assigned to arranging the serving table. The housekeeper observes the preparations with a tight expression, less a celebration than a demonstration of charity. Still, there is a distinct change in the atmosphere. The upstairs family pretends to retire early. The kitchen staff, unusually pleasant, add extra cream to the dessert. Even Mr. Haynes appears softer somehow. He issues no extra instructions, no sudden inspections, no cold stares. Today, you wonder why. By dusk, the west wing is dark and the back hallway is illuminated by a dozen lamps suspended from temporary hooks. Someone has moved the furniture, rolled up the carpets. The air carries a faint scent of wax and floral water, and for the first time in months, someone is laughing naturally. Maggie appears at your side in a gown you haven't seen before, too nice for a scullery girl. Her hair is braided, her cheeks flushed, borrowed. She whispers, "Don't tell." You nod. Your own is simpler, clean at least. A pin at the neck, one that once belonged to a maid who departed without a word. You fastened it there this morning without understanding why. The musician tunes his instrument, a footman claps a rhythm. A girl from the laundry smiles and pulls you into a lively dance for a little while. You participate, your limbs recalling what happiness feels like. Your feet hurt, but it's a new kind of pain, earned, not forced. Maggie twirls past you, smiling, and for a fleeting moment she looks like someone who has never carried a secret. But you still have the book beneath your bed, and you still remember the footprints. An hour into the event, someone hands you a sweet drink, very flavourful, cold. You sip cautiously, and that's when the doors open. Mr. Haynes. No formal coat, no gloves. His eyes scan the room, fixing on you. He doesn't move, just watches you put down the cup. Maggie notices. She weaves through the dancers, bright, breathless, and says quietly, "He knows." You nod. "I am prepared." Because this evening, this brief moment of liberation is a deception, one final trick before everything changes. And somewhere beneath the music, you feel the house observing again, not with suspicion, but with interest, as if it is curious about who you will become when the song concludes. You don't flee, you don't recoil. You simply set down your drink, straighten your apron, and walk toward Mr. Haynes as though you have been summoned, not discovered. The music behind you continues. The violin plays a light, joyful tune, floating above a tension dense enough to cut. He doesn't speak right away, just turns, moving down the corridor without looking back. You follow. Naturally, you do. The lamps disappear behind you. The silence of the West Wing returns. The scent of wax and damp fabric enters your lungs. Finally, he stops outside the butler's private quarters. He opens the door. You enter. The room is immaculate, minimalist. A desk, a cabinet, 2 glass bottles, one half empty, everything positioned with military precision. He motions to a chair. You choose to remain standing. Finally he speaks. You have been looking where you shouldn't. You offer no reply. He pours a glass of fortified wine, does not offer you any. I am aware of the hidden area, he says. I am aware of the ledger. Still, you remain silent. You could be dismissed, he adds, swirling the wine. No letter of recommendation, no wages, no money for the trip home. You nod once. He waits for a sign of fear. It does not appear. He places the glass down gently, then leans in closer. You are not the first person to investigate. You tilt your head slightly. And you are not the first person to locate that room. A pause. I assume you believe you are heroic, he says, that this dwelling is some great evil, that you will expose it, rectify something. He almost smiles. You don't grasp it. Houses of this kind, they function on discretion. They require willful ignorance. Every family does. Every estate. Without it, the whole structure collapses. You meet his gaze directly for the first time. Perhaps it should, you state. The silence that follows is the most threatening you have experienced. You've heard then? I underestimated your intelligence. He reaches into a desk drawer. Not for a weapon, but for the book. The same one you concealed beneath your mattress, returned. He places it on the desk, opening it to Elsie's page. You are sharp, he says. But she was more courageous. You show a slight reaction. She approached me, he continues. Not the other way around. She desired to leave. She had complications, you understand. You do not, but you nod. She was afraid, but she had a plan prepared. He closes the book. I assisted her. You stare. She is not deceased, he says. She is gone, far away from here. New documents, different name. You try to take a breath, but the air is caught in your throat. She left the ribbon for you, he says. Said you would investigate. Said you were determined. You blink rapidly. He pours another glass of wine, takes a slow drink. I expect you to be working tomorrow, he says, his voice detached again. The Ashfords are expecting guests, and we are missing one serving maid. You nod. He observes you leave, and as you depart his quarters, the violins still faint in the distance, you feel your legs shaking, not from fear, but from relief. Elsie is free, genuinely free, and now you know it is achievable. Morning returns like a sudden shock. The staff ball may have granted a few hours of temporary happiness, but the house has already discarded it like an old layer of skin. The corridor is busy with assignments. The hearths are cold. The bells begin ringing before breakfast is even prepared. You are back in your uniform, back with the metal cleaner, back in your designated role. But you are not unchanged. Elsie is free. You repeat it to yourself while lighting the green living room fire. You feel it in your fingers as you fold cloth napkins for lunch, a quiet warmth behind your ribs, fueled by the knowledge that the escape was not just a hope. It was a calculated decision, and perhaps one day it could be yours too. Then Maggie collapses. It happens just before noon in the linen storage hallway, between a stack of clean towels and a cart of porcelain teacups. No shout, no dramatics, just the softest falling sound and the breakage of one ceramic saucer. You find her huddled against the wall, her arms wrapped tightly around herself, her skin pale and clammy. Her lips move without sound. She hasn't eaten in days, someone mutters behind you. Only scraps. The housekeeper appears, her face strained, her eyes expressionless. Take her to the sleeping room immediately. You carry her yourself. She is light, far too light. In the attic room you place a folded towel beneath her head. Her eyes flutter open. "I didn't mean to drop the tray," she whispers. "Didn't mean to leave." "You didn't leave," you whisper back. "You are right here," but she is barely listening. She curls into a ball and sleeps. You attempt to resume work, but the burden of her collapse weighs on your chest. At supper, the footman says nothing. The cook dismisses it, saying Maggie needs discipline and some nourishing broth. You hold your peace. Later that evening you sneak away. You climb the back stairs with a utensil, a small piece of bread wrapped in cloth and a tiny container of chilled meat jelly you took from the pantry. Maggie is still huddled on the bed, her face turned to the wall. She stirs when you touch her shoulder. "This goes against the rules," she murmurs. "So does breathing in the pantry," you remark. You assist her in sitting up. She eats slowly, her hand shaking. You do not press her. You simply sit beside her on the edge of the cot, your knees touching. She finishes half the bread, then whispers, "I saw him. The master." You freeze. In the wine cellar the night Elsie disappeared. Her fingers clutch the blanket. He was drinking alone, speaking to no one, just standing there. "You wait," he said. "She is not yours to rescue." The words hover in the attic, like a threat. Maggie turns her face into the cushion. "I never told anyone, not even her." You remain silent because now you comprehend what she is carrying. It was not just fear, it was remorse, and it nearly destroyed her. You stay until she is sleeping again. Then you head downstairs. Slowly, deliberately. The corridor is deserted, but the service call board flickers. One tag sways slightly. Study. You look at it intently, and for the first time you do not answer the summons. You turn away and walk into the laundry room instead, because Maggie requires rest, and the master, he can wait. You spend the next hour by yourself in the laundry room, not because it is your scheduled chore, but because it is the one space in the house where no one closely observes after sunset. The housekeeper's inspections finish at 8. The cook avoids the dampness. The butler never stoops to enter unless the supply of fresh linen is critically low, which makes it the ideal spot to reflect. You ignite a single oil lamp and begin folding sheets you have already folded once today just to keep your hands occupied. The air is heavy with starch and steam, and the rattling sound of the drying rack wheels provides a rhythm to your thoughts. Maggie saw the master that night. You try to imagine it, him alone in the wine cellar, murmuring to the darkness, like someone making a deal with spirits. She is not yours to rescue. It is not just terrifying, it is recognizable. You have encountered that sentence. You dig beneath a pile of ironing cloths until your fingers find the concealed ledger, the one Mr. Haynes returned without comment. You turn back to Elsie's page. In the margin, written faintly in different ink, is a brief line. At first glance it looked like a wine note, but now you see it clearly. Not his to command, not yours to save, not his to command. A disagreement, a rejection, an act of opposition hidden between pages and stone and silence. You look down at your fingers. They are no longer trembling, they are clenched tight. You know what you must do. The next morning Maggie is improved. Colour has returned to her cheeks, though she still walks as if the floor might suddenly fail her. You hand her a mug of warm milk. She accepts it without question. Did anything happen? You pause, then nod once. Me. That afternoon you report to the butler's pantry. Mr. Haynes is inside, as always, tallying, calculating, arranging. Silence. Like a piece of furniture, he glances up. You step forward and place the book, the real one, on the desk. Not concealed, not accusatory, just visible. I am keeping this, you state. It remains with me now. He says nothing, just raises one eyebrow, as if mildly surprised. then. And if someone comes asking for it, I will present it to them. A pause. He examines you, then leans back in his chair. It is draining, isn't it? He says finally, carrying what no one else wishes to know. You do not respond because you finally comprehend something. He is not your opponent. He is simply the one who gave up trying. You will not. That night, you gather Maggie and the two of you sit in the staff dining area after the bells have stopped ringing. Just the two of you. A platter of bread, a dish of cold stewed apples, the sound of the large clock ticking behind the stairwell. She looks at you with a question in her eyes. You nod once. You are going? She asks. You don't answer. Not yet, because there are 3 notes hidden in your apron. One for her, one for Mr. Haynes, and one for the house itself. You will leave it on the stair, unfolded, signed only with your name, so that for once they are forced to recall you. Not the manner you folded laundry, not the manner you poured tea, but the way you departed. You wait until the sky is the dark colour of aged ink. Just past midnight, when even the housekeeper's shadow has disappeared from the corridor walls. No bells ring, no footsteps echo. The house is sleeping, and that is when you act. The message for Mr. Haynes is tucked under the inkwell on his desk. You don't need to write much, just she is free. I know, thank you. The note for Maggie is longer. You slide it beneath her pillow while she sleeps, curled on her bed like a punctuation mark. In it, you write what you could not say out loud. Do not spend your entire existence surviving. Live, and when you leave, leave dramatically. Then you pack. Not much. You have never owned much. A spare dress, a coin wrapped in fabric, the pin you wore during the staff ball, and the ledger folded in linen concealed in the bottom of your sack, just in case someone ever asks. You move swiftly, silently, your body moving through the familiar pathways like water. Down the stairs, past the laundry, through the scullery. You acknowledge the cold stove once. Thank you for the warmth. Then you slip out through the rear service gate, the one the kitchen boys always forget to secure. The stars twinkle above you, unsure if they are observers or accomplices. The road curves gently into the countryside, bordered with hedges and wildflowers silvered with dew. Your boots are quiet on the dirt. In the distance you hear nightbirds calling. A wagon rolls by, far off, headed for the early morning market. No one sees you, no one is meant to. But you feel observed by the stillness, by the moon, by the weight in your satchel, the proof that you exist. Not a name in a book, not a cleared row. You. You arrive at the road junction just as the sky begins to lighten. And there, waiting by the mile marker, is a girl with short hair concealed under a cap, a bag on a hip, and an expression you would recognise anywhere. Elsie. She smiles broadly. Took you long enough. You smile in return. I had to finish the laundry first. She laughs. It's not the strained, polite kind. It's the kind you only hear when someone's shoulders have forgotten how to prepare for commands. You didn't realise how much you missed it. How did you know I would take this route? You inquire. She shrugs. You are stubborn, but not foolish. You walk together in silence for a moment, the mist swirling around your lower legs. Where are we headed? You ask. She smiles. Where they don't write your name in a book before removing you. That is sufficient for now. And as you walk, you realise something that takes your breath away. The house will continue. The bells will ring. The linens will be folded, the silver polished. A new girl will assume your role, but you are no longer inside its confines. You escaped, and you are not a domestic worker now. You are a story. You and Elsie walk until your feet are sore, through fields that sparkle with the morning moisture, down winding roads with no names, past stone walls where small birds sing as if they have never heard of servitude. Neither of you speaks much. There is no need, because freedom, it turns out, is a quiet experience. It does not announce itself with loud noises or weeping. It hums softly in your ribs, like a tune you once knew and thought you had forgotten. By midday, you stop in a village so small it hardly qualifies as a location. A butcher shop, a postal building, a public bar with smoke rising from its chimney like an inviting signal. Elsie gestures toward it. We can buy food there and find water inside. The innkeeper never asks your identity. He notices two young women in worn-out boots with exhausted faces and simply offers hot drinks and a portion of bread with a bit of spread. You sit close to the fireplace, finally warm after what feels like ages. Elsie takes out a small folded paper, a map drawn by hand, with faint but distinct lines. There is a woman near Manchester, she tells you. She takes in young women. They say she was once a housekeeper. She operates a training school now. She teaches office skills, arithmetic. No bells. You smile at that thought. No bells. Also, no tight garments. It's paradise. She traces a path with her digit. If we stick to the waterway routes, we can avoid going through the cities. Fewer inquiries, you confirm with a nod. When do we go? She looks up at the sky through the grimy window pane. Tonight, we must leave quickly. By nightfall, you stand up to help clean the dishes, the ingrained habit to straighten up to serve still strong. The innkeeper waves his hand, dismissing you. You are not an employee here, dear. You pause, confused. Those words feel alien. Not staff, not staff. You sit back down, just for the simple pleasure of it. Back on the main road, your thoughts wander. You think about Maggie, hoping she received your message, wondering if she will remain, or if one day someone will notice her missing too. You picture her humming again, but this time not just to cope, but to enjoy the melody. You think of Mr. Haynes, of what he understands and what he has chosen to ignore, and you wonder if, as he poured his evening drink tonight, he noticed how quiet the residence had become without you. You truly hope he did. The sun sets low. You walk with your head held high now, your boots dusty and ankles aching, but your posture upright, unafraid. Elsie picks a berry from a nearby shrub and gives it to you. Tastes like freedom. It is sharp, but you grin. That night you make camp near a stone crossing, using your outer layer as a cushion. The stars above are far kinder than expensive light fixtures. The ground covering does not demand polishing. The evening wind does not dictate when you must wake up. And as slumber settles over your body like a comforting wrap, a final realization forms in your mind like vapour. The mansion will forget your name, but not your absence. There will always be one lamp that burns dimmer, one signalling device that never sounds again. And in some way, that is its own form of justice. You close your eyes. No sheets to fold, no challenging burdens to carry. Only the sound of your own breathing. Your own. Unburdened. Back at the grand house, life continues without you. A different girl arrives 2 days following your departure. She's from York, barely 15, and wears her anxiety like an extra layer. The housekeeper records her name in the logbook, adds a new entry, and assigns her to Maggie's previous tasks. Maggie, who has now been given more responsibility. Yes, promoted. She did not ask for it, but after you disappeared, she stepped into the void you created, not to replicate you, but to shield others from being overwhelmed by the work. She walks with greater confidence now, does not shy away when Mr. Haynes passes by, and the cook, who used to shout a lot, now speaks in low tones around her instead. Something is different, and they all sense it. Mr. Haynes notices it first, not the dirt on the silverware or the folded note you left on your sleeping pallet. He notices that the warning bells sound different. It is not the mechanism. They still ring at the correct moment, in sequence, but the servants downstairs no longer jump in response. They attend, but with consideration, not fear. One day, a visitor rings 5 times rapidly. The maid answers after only 2 rings. The visitor complains, but Mr. Haynes does not rebuke her. He just closes the office door and pours a smaller amount of his evening drink than usual. Maggie discovers the hidden record book. It takes her 3 weeks. She was not searching for it directly, but her fingers, while cleaning the storage shelves, press against a knot in the timber just hard enough to release the concealed panel. She takes the book, runs her thumb along the side, and smiles because she already knows what it contains. Your letter revealed everything to her. Later that evening she carries it to her small room, sits with it in her lap, and slowly, precisely begins to copy the names into her small journal. She does not know what purpose they will serve, but she knows she must record them. Downstairs, the cooking area has become quieter, not because of fear, but concentration. The older staff communicate in new ways. Fewer grievances, more shared glances, more provisions saved, more hot drinks shared. Behind the dishwashing area door, someone leaves a fresh fruit on Maggie's cushion. Another person slips her a pair of foot coverings with only slight wear on the heel. None of them mention your name, but everyone is aware you left something behind. Not a uniform, a transformation. And one day, weeks afterward, a guest arrives. Not nobility, not upper class, not a visitor for refreshment or an inspector with too many questions. Just a girl. She wears a woven skirt, well-used footwear, and a cap too large for her head. She claims she heard there might be a position, that someone mentioned a respectable house had space for the right kind of worker, one who knows how to keep a low profile, but also knows when not to. The housekeeper looks displeased. Mr. Haynes observes her over his spectacles. Maggie, cleaning the stair railing close by, steps forward and says, "Let her demonstrate her ability." The girl agrees. Behind her ear is a faded blue ribbon, worn at the edge. And that evening, following the meal, the logbook gains one more name, not crossed out, not tagged, discharged, just added, simply put, because the residence remembers. And somewhere far away, on the road, so do you. The young woman with the blue ribbon learns quickly. She does not ask questions, not yet, but she observes every detail. The way the boy working in the kitchen conceals crusts of bread in the folds of his garment. The way Maggie pauses before every set of stairs, listening before she ascends. The way the housekeeper runs her finger over the logbook entries as if searching for more than just figures. She sweeps floors without being told, folds napkins the traditional way, starts the main room fire without causing smoke. She is not quick, but she is thorough and meticulous, which is what the house demands. But every so often, she hums softly, a melody no one else recognizes except Maggie. It is a Sunday morning when she discovers the marking. Not a scratch, not a stain, a sign carved faintly into the base of the fabric storage compartment drawer. 3 lines, then a rounded shape, resembling a small bird with one wing. She runs her finger over it and feels a shiver down her spine. Later, she finds the identical mark etched behind a rock in the lower food storage wall. And again, underneath the 3rd step of the western hallway, a series of indicators. She does not pursue it, not yet. She records them discreetly, in her journal, just as someone did before her. In the attic area, Maggie replaces the old staffing roster. No longer just a list of duties, it is a sort of cipher now. Roles are rotated more equitably, rest periods are genuine, punishments less severe. No one inquires how she convinced the housekeeper, but they all see the improvement. Maggie keeps your message folded in the pocket of her working apron, creased and worn. When she's by herself, she reads it quietly. Be the next catalyst, not the main source, but what ignites it. One evening, Mr. Haynes encounters the girl with the ribbon cleaning the frame of the tall clock. She bows respectfully. He nods, stating, "You are learning." She looks directly into his eyes. "I had a good example to follow." He does not reply, but as he walks off, his lips twitch slightly. And later, in his private living area, He retrieves a folded sheet from a compartment. A letter signed with your identity. He straightens it with care, reads it again slowly, then places it into a fresh envelope and secures it in a container. Not to forget, to fully acknowledge. That winter. A male servant is let go. No one expresses sorrow. He was reckless, mean, caught hitting the young woman in the laundry when he thought no one was watching. But someone is always watching. Now the staff in the kitchen assist the girl with finishing her meal. As she weeps into her soup, Maggie wraps her hand in a clean cloth. The girl with the ribbon remains next to her all night, singing that same tune repeatedly until both fall asleep. The house listens, and, for once, it does not make loud noises. That night, 1 month later, another girl arrives. Maggie welcomes her at the staff entry, offers her warm bread and a sincere smile. She asks if the girl has a ribbon. The girl answers no. Maggie reaches into her apron and gives her yours. Some narratives conclude when someone escapes, but others become subtle. Silent uprisings whispered behind window coverings, engraved beneath floorboards, folded into pockets, passed along, one young woman to another, indefinitely. Your story spreads outward even if your identity is not spoken, even if they do not know who initiated it, even if the house attempts to erase it. Because somewhere deep in the routine of polishing metal and straightening linens, an unusual new rhythm has started to take hold, and it starts with the head male servant. Mr. Haynes has not altered his walk, his voice, or his frightening ability to materialize behind you just as you reach for the incorrect tea container. But something in his stillness has softened. You observe it in the way he lingers a moment longer at the wall of bells after the evening meal. How he no longer punishes a clumsy young boy by the sink with extra chores, but instead sends him quietly to retrieve lighting stands. Something simple, something calm. He still keeps the record book, still carries the keys, still speaks only what is essential. But he has started keeping 2 record books now, one authorised, one concealed. And the concealed one has no discharge section, only names and dates and observations of kindness. The girl with the blue ribbon discovers the 2nd record book, not accidentally, but by silent encouragement. He leaves it slightly open one evening, the corner just barely hanging over the edge of his writing surface, as if inviting someone to read it. She does. It lists every staff member currently in the residence, their dates of birth, their days off, which foods they dislike, who they work best alongside, who is left-handed, who has difficulty walking in the cold, who sings softly while folding. She stares. He clears his throat from behind her. She turns quickly. "You maintain this?" she asks, her voice barely audible. "I do," he replies. "Why?" He thinks for a moment, then shrugs. "You cannot defend what you do not observe." She does not smile, but she begins to place her trust in him. That trust is important, because one afternoon, while sweeping beneath the steps, she finds something out of place. A crack in the floor material, a folded piece of paper jammed in the opening. At first, she thinks it is yours, but it is not. It is older, written in pale ink. Careful, scripted writing. "Do not go by yourself. They monitor the western wing after it gets dark. A warning not from recently." She shows it to Maggie, who reads it once, then closes her eyes. "That handwriting," Maggie whispers, "it is from May. May, she departed before you arrived, directly after Elsie." The girl with the ribbon tenses up. "Left," she repeats, but Maggie's tone is flat. That is what they claimed. They searched the corridor together that night. Not by looking through hidden compartments or cramped spaces, just with their eyes fully open, with light sources, with protective wear, with calm composure. They locate the western wing's smallest chamber, still sealed. Dust collected heavily on the handle. A single fastener on the windowsill. Small, made of shell. Too tiny for a male servant. Just right for someone like May. The room reveals nothing else. but it is not necessary, because the quiet is confirmation. The following day the housekeeper is told, not accused, not challenged, simply informed that something was found, that someone is missing, that someone else remembers. And surprisingly, she does not deny it. She just nods and writes May's name back into the logbook, not as discharged, only as lost, but not forgotten. A symbol, a chance. That evening the staff lights one extra candle in the kitchen area. They do not say who it is for, but when the girl with the ribbon walks past, she sets your pin next to the flame, and for the first time the others do not look away. The next morning the kitchen area is quieter than normal, but not out of fear, out of respect. The additional candle still burns low in the corner, its wax forming a pool onto a damaged plate that no one dares to move. Beside it, your pin glints faintly in the morning light, tucked into a folded cloth, like a tribute. Even the cook, who typically scowls at anything not made of fat or bone, stirs her cooked grain more gently. Maggie calls a meeting, not formally, just an extended break for hot drinks. The staff gathers in the dishwashing room, standing close together, soot on their work clothes, crumbs on their sleeves, eyes that no longer quickly look toward exits. Maggie speaks first. I believe we have all been aware that something is wrong. Not just once, not just with one girl, but for a long time. A low sound of agreement. She holds up May's message, the one found beneath the stairs. She did not leave. She disappeared just like others before her, and we allowed the house to continue as if it was merely a spilled drink. She pauses. Her eyes examine the group, but not anymore. The girl helping in the kitchen, her arms covered in white powder, speaks next. I knew May. She used to leave scraps for the rodents behind the storage area. Said even pests should be allowed to eat during the cold season. She laughs, but the sound is strained. The boy cleaning shoes, still too young for facial hair. She gave me half her bread when I ripped my foot covering. Said I would perform better if I was not limping. The housekeeper appears at the entrance. Everyone freezes, but she does not scold them. She steps inside, closes the door behind her and says softly, "There was another person before May, before even Elsie. Before a silence so absolute you can hear the storage clock ticking. She had no ribbon, just a voice that refused to be quiet." "What occurred to her?" someone whispers. The housekeeper clasps her hands together. "I did not inquire then. That was my mistake." They talk for an hour. They share identities that had vanished, routines remembered, small acts of kindness that no one had dared to acknowledge before. A secret collection of records forms, not of formal documents, but of shared memory. The logbook grows unofficially, not just recording who works when and where, but who matters, and everyone does. Outside, the cold season makes the windows frosty, but inside the heat is stronger. The girl with the ribbon moves a sleeping pallet closer to the others. That evening 2 more maids do the same, then the shoe-cleaning boy, then the cook's helper. They sleep near one another, not for warmth, but for defence, because no one will disappear again, not without being noticed. You are not physically present, but your effect is in every part of the area they clean, every bell they delay answering, every guideline they quietly adjust. You are the invisible force of the house, not constrained but inspiring courage, and this time no one is ignoring it, not what happened, not what they have become. Down in the storage level, beneath an old container of cleaning supply, the girl with the ribbon finds one final marking, a pair of initial letters, yours scratched faintly into the stone. She presses her fingers to the letters, smiles and whispers, "You remained." The months extend, and the warm season attempts its best to arrive, but the cold weather lingers longer this year. The branches stay brittle, the soil never fully softens, and still the house operates, not with happiness, but with something more powerful, determination. You feel it in the way footwear walks now, more confidently. The way eyes meet across a passage and do not look away. The way the silverware is cleaned, not to impress visitors, but to shine for their own sake. It is Maggie who begins the next shift, and she does it with a window rod. It starts in the light blue guest room, the one where Lady Hastings once insisted the fabric smelled of common people and regret. Maggie is up there, replacing the cloth hangings. When she pulls too forcefully and the old support breaks free, a loud noise, dust and crumbling plaster everywhere, and something else, a package tied with string, wedged behind the wall. Slats, not currency, not jewellery, but correspondence. Stacks of them, some sealed, some opened and refolded many times, all from servants addressed to relatives or partners, or to no one specifically, none of them sent, some dated 5 years back. Maggie carries them downstairs in her apron, dust clinging to the edges. She spreads them on the large kitchen table. The staff gathers, their mouths slightly open. "Why were they not delivered?" the laundry worker asks, her voice small. No one replies, but they all understand. Too many of them recall asking for postage and being told later. Too many remember Haynes's sharp observation when he checked outgoing packages. Too many never received answers because their correspondence never departed. The housekeeper joins them this time, no pretense. She picks up one envelope, gently reads the destination. "Scotland," she whispers. This girl's mother thought she had run away. Maggie looks up. She did not. She pleaded to be sent home. The housekeeper swallows. I remember she had a noticeable way of walking, walked as if her shoes were 2 sizes too large. She said the shoes were a gift, the girl with the ribbon adds, from her sister. Everyone looks at her. She shrugs. It was mentioned in the letter. That evening the kitchen area transforms not into a dining space or ballroom, but into a mailing station. They sort the correspondence by area, apply ink to new envelopes, warm them over the fire to dry. The mail servant offers to ride into town on his non-working day to mail them personally. 2 maids begin creating a new arrangement, a container with a lock, 2 keys, and a solemn promise that no message shall ever be read, lost, or kept again. The staff signs the promise using a kitchen utensil as a writing tool. Even the housekeeper adds her identity. Haynes does not, but he leaves a book of postage stamps by the kitchen door. The next morning, full, untouched. The pin is now a symbol. It is passed from garment pocket to pocket, not as a souvenir, but as a warning. If you wear it, you carry the responsibility for that week, and with it, the authority to voice concerns, the authority to question, the authority to care openly, and no one dares silence it anymore, not even Haynes, especially not him. By the time the fragrant shrubs bloom just barely, cold, still clinging to their tips, the staff has transformed, not replaced, evolved. The girl with the blue ribbon no longer sweeps passages alone. The shoe-cleaning boy does not weep when he drops a plate. And Maggie. Maggie keeps a journal in her apron now, not to track chores but concepts. Concepts for things no servant would have dared whisper a year before. Alternating meal preparation, shared rest afternoons, a better technique to clean silverware that does not damage your fingers. They call it the silent disagreement, not because it is loud, but because it is effective. One morning a visitor arrives, an old friend of the family, one who has not stayed at the large residence in years. She walks in trailing fur and scent and the kind of scorn that hangs around every wealthy female widow. She snaps her fingers for refreshment, complains that her fowl is insufficiently seasoned, throws her hand coverings at the new maid when they are not warm enough. And the staff, they do not react visibly. They serve, they nod, but they observe one another. And in the kitchen area afterward they laugh, not cruelly but victoriously, because this woman's freezing rudeness no longer defeats them. The large residence may belong to her friend, but the heart of the house, The heart of the house belongs to them now. That evening, the girl with the ribbon finds a message tucked beneath her sleeping pallet. Not sealed, just folded inside. A simple drawing sketched with dark pigment. It is the staff living area, but cleaner, brighter. There is a floor covering, a timepiece that operates, a storage unit with reading material, and 6 sleeping pallets, all in use. In the corner, the girl herself, her ribbon neatly fastened, holding the pin. It is unsigned, but there is a mark, a small rounded shape, 3 lines, the old symbol. She runs her thumb over it, smiling, then fastens it inside her apron over her heart. Weeks go by. The modifications settle like fine particles, quiet and steady. The storage level gets arranged, the food pantry gains a second lock and only the staff have access. The master never asks where the extra food supplies go because he never noticed it missing before. But now it provides food. For an elderly woman down the street, a young boy with a temperature and no food, a family who once sent their young woman here and never received a single message back. Haynes begins instructing just once a week, reading for those who desire it, writing letters, basic mathematics. Even the housekeeper participates, struggling over words she has not spoken out loud in decades. They conduct it in the attic area, beneath the noisy wooden supports, right where you used to be. Your old working apron still hangs on a fixture nearby. No one moves it. No one would dare. The girl with the ribbon touches it occasionally before the teaching session begins. Not to remember, but to pledge. In the western wing they plant flowering shrubs. Not inside, naturally, but outside the closed window of that quiet, sealed chamber, the one May never returned from, the one no one dares open, but no one ignores anymore. Each staff member contributes something to the base of that window, a ribbon, a message, a utensil, a button, and when the fragrant shrubs finally bloom, they stand around it in silence, not grieving, simply acknowledging you, May, Elsie, and every identity that never made it into the formal logbook. Somewhere in the core of the house, beneath the functioning clocks, behind the stern portraits and silver-framed recollections of people who never cleaned footwear, there is a kindness that was not present before. You cannot quantify it, cannot mark it on a schedule, but you sense it when the water heating device makes noise too loudly, and no one minds when the footwear is left soiled because someone had to transport the butcher's young son home. When the youngest maid sneezes during prayer and receives a baked item instead of an angry look. The house has not softened, the people have become stronger. There is a new arrival today, not a guest. A girl, 12, perhaps 13, her eyes too wide, hands too clean. She arrives at the delivery entrance with a bag and a quietness that does not feel timid. It feels practiced. They claim she has come from a house far away, dismissed for asking too many inquiries. Maggie raises an eyebrow at that. The housekeeper simply nods and writes her identity at the bottom of the unofficial logbook. No departure date, no specific assignment. Just one comment. Let her recover. The girl sleeps for 2 consecutive days, wakes up to cooked grain and a prepared egg. No one pressures her. They allow her to explore, allow her to follow the shoe-cleaning boy while he scrubs coal residue, allow her to sit with the cook's helper and peel vegetables with unpracticed fingers, allow her to simply exist, until one afternoon she stops before the western wing window, the one with the flowering shrubs. She observes the fasteners, the utensils, the light purple blooms. Then, softly, she removes her bag, takes out a necklace container, tiny brass, empty inside, and sets it next to the flower pot. No one asks her who it belonged to. They just create space. At the evening meal that night, the pin has moved again. It rests with her, the new girl. She blinks, holds it gently, then whispers, "I did not know her." "No," the girl with the ribbon says, "but she would have known you." The new girl smiles, not broadly, but genuinely. By the light of a candle, Maggie reads out loud from one of the old messages. It is one no one can identify the sender of. A note from a maid who signed only with a drawing of a drinking cup and the term sister. If they forget our names, let them at least remember we were compassionate. That is sufficient to keep a person comforted. Everyone agrees. They do not talk after that. They do not need to, because compassion here does not have to be loud anymore. It lingers like vapour in a laundry area, or flower pieces on a windowsill, or the weight of a pin in a small, steady hand. Even the master notices something has shifted. He does not quite state it, but his instructions are gentler, his demands less forceful. Once he asks why there are fresh pastries in the storage level. No one responds, and he does not inquire again. The house adjusts around him, and for the first time he learns to adapt with it. Not because he is forced to, but because resistance now feels like isolation. And the staff? They are not isolated, not anymore. The warm season arrives slowly, like the house itself is not quite sure it is ready to believe in warmth again. The walls make less noise, the smoke channels remain unused longer. And one day, the girl with the ribbon hangs her clothes and observes something unusual. Laughter. Genuine laughter. Not the restricted, quiet snickers of girls trying not to awaken the house, but open, full-throated happiness spilling out from the storage area steps where the shoe-cleaning boy is demonstrating to the new girl how to toss vegetables in the air. One hits the wall, one hits him directly in the chest. They fall into fits of laughter, and no one shouts, not even the cook. She is too busy singing softly over her food preparation. The pin fastened to her apron. Now the logbook. Their logbook has expanded greatly, not just with identities and duties, but with drawings inside, jokes, flattened flowers, a cooking method someone insists makes baked goods taste like summer rain, even a page for misunderstood phrases like when the laundry maid believed a certain item was something else entirely. It is a vibrant record now, one no master ever examines, but one that holds the genuine history of this residence. The attic teaching area is more crowded these days, seating pulled from everywhere. Some sit on containers. One girl uses a round lid as a surface for writing. Haynes, still surprisingly patient, gestures toward a writing board now leaning against the old storage unit. Spell freedom, he instructs. The new girl attempts Mrs. Aletta tries again. The girl with the ribbon assists her in pronouncing it, and when she gets it right, the room erupts, not loudly, just with pride, as if spelling freedom somehow made it more concrete, as if now they all possess a little portion of it. There is a cultivated space now, not official, just a narrow piece of land behind the animal shelter where nothing useful ever thrived. But Maggie declared it theirs, and that was final. They plant herbs, then root vegetables, then wildflowers, just because. They tend it between work periods no one tells them to. But the garden grows nonetheless, just like everything else here, not quickly, but steadily. One evening the new girl finds a loose brick behind the food pantry shelf. Inside, a single hand covering, a small piece of ribbon, a folded message that simply says not gone, simply observing. She does not show it to the others, not yet. She tucks it back, brick and all. Some things are meant to wait in the main entrance hall. A formal portrait is taken down for cleaning. Behind it, etched in the wall plaster, barely visible. Initials, small, uneven, carved with attention. Someone asks if they should remove it. The girl with the ribbon just stares. No, she says. That is the first identity we ever protected. She presses her fingers to the initials and does not cry, not because she is not sad, but because sorrow here does not remain by itself anymore. It shares space with resilience and melodies in the dishwashing room and messages that always get delivered. The house still creaks, still conceals darkness, still demands quiet steps and careful observation. But beneath all that, something deeper vibrates, a kind of tranquility, a kind of power, a kind of you still here, still observant, still engraved into every damaged floor piece and lamp wick. In this space, fear no longer has purchase. It is a code to live by. You stir, if slumber can even exist inside a vivid dream, to the familiar scent of wood smoke and citrus rind, a perfume of endurance, a fragrance of history. Below, a teapot lets out a screech, overly loud, almost celebratory. And above, footsteps move across the aging planks without caution, because in this fresh chapter of the house, no soul must sneak. No one hides in blanket chests or behind bolted doors. They reside here, openly. Today is the day for cleaning, not the desperate rush, the hasty polish before formal company arrives. It's something slower, deliberate. The people who work here have made it their own ritual, a kind of minor holiday. Every person chooses one section, a cabinet, a stretch of wall, a forgotten corner. They wipe, sweep, scour, and inevitably unearth forgotten things. Maggie today discovers a sewing needle forced into the timber beneath the head housemaid's cot, misshapen and oxidized. Poor soul, she whispers, cracked from the weight of it all. She doesn't discard it. She places it gently in a small tin on the ledge beside a spool of thread, a chipped coffee cup, one single gold earring, and the hair accessory that belonged to the maid who vanished in the West Wing, each item a small, sacred token, their personal display of the hidden past. The main housekeeper now maintains 2 records, one for the owners, still untouched, one for the staff, continually expanding. The note for today reads, "A young woman laughed so hard she choked on her tea. We presented her with the pin immediately. That piece of jewellery is no longer a tool for silence. It is a prize for moments like that." In the uppermost room, someone has decorated the exposed beams crudely. Clouds, stars, a strange grinning moon. The residue of the chalk still dusts the floor. The newest staff member stands beneath it, her cheeks flushed pink. "I was bored," she admits. Nobody reprimands her. Instead, the cook simply remarks, "It needs a meteor," and takes up a painting brush. By the time the day is done, the ceiling is a complete night sky, and no one wants to leave when their work is done because they have crafted their own constellations now, by agreement, with pigment and laughter and identities that were meant to be forgotten. They receive guests sometimes, young faces, old ones, employees from neighbouring estates who happen to pass through the district. They depart carrying fresh rolls and a strange look in their eyes. Not envy, just bewilderment, as if trying to understand how this residence, same masonry, same expectations, feels like an entirely different place, and those who truly grasp it, they stay. Slowly, surely. Their names fill the informal record like a flourishing vine growing wild and vibrantly alive. One of them, a boy who used to polish leather in the city, composes a melody. He plays it on a simple instrument made from a carved handle of a spoon. It's a silly, quick, and imperfect sound, but it gets stuck in the mind like a children's rhyme or a hushed mantra, and soon even Haynes hums it while folding sheets. He denies it, but everyone hears him, because this house broadcasts everything now, not only the sound of steps, but happiness itself. The change does not arrive with a warning bell. No grand final meal, no owner declaring freedom from the upper window, no announcements, just a routine Tuesday, overcast, with a current of air that smells of wet rock and rising yeast. You stand in the workers' room one last time, though you no longer wear the uniform. You haven't for months. It's been handed down twice since you left. The pin is placed inside a small frame with a dried purple flower pressed behind the glass. They keep it there for all to see, not as an ornament, but as evidence, proof that something occurred here, something improbable, something no outsider would accept. The house still entertains guests, still keeps secrets, still demands too much from the timbers and too little from the portraits. But the atmosphere is transformed. In the cooking area, a boy reads recipes aloud, hesitantly, while 3 young women test which flour blend creates the most resilient pastry. On the main staircase, someone has marked a small poem, uneven and full of hope, and in the washing room someone sings poorly, but with genuine emotion. Maggie retires from service. She doesn't reveal her destination, only that she is finally going to reclaim her original name. And when she goes, she fastens her final message to the storage room door. They told us we were interchangeable. They were correct because we kept replacing ourselves with improved versions. They keep the note there even after the ink fades, even after the room is repainted, because it's now part of the history of that wall. The newcomer is no longer new. She teaches children their letters in the attic now, recounts the tale of the first time she saw the lilac's flower, mentions your name just once, but it is enough. You are still present in the way the shoes are arranged without being asked, in the gentle tap before someone enters a room they once dreaded, in the manner they press small tokens into the hands of new hires, exactly as they did for you. Outside, the vegetable patch thrives. Potatoes, greens, mint that has spread wild and without order. A boy with hands dusty with coal grumbles while pulling weeds, but does not stop because this is his home now too. And every year, on the evening of the first freeze, they gather in the west wing. No formal ritual, no speeches required. Just a quiet reading of every name they have added to the list. Some real, some invented, all belonging to them. They light a candle, place it on the sill next to the famous pin, and allow it to burn until the morning breaks. The building will remain, but now it speaks the truth, with flowers and records, and teachings and laughter that rings out long after the water has cooled. It may never be chronicled in the papers or the official histories, but in every quiet passage the story endures. Not of the hierarchy, but of the ones who cleaned, served, and claimed to be the true occupants, the secret lives. The ones who changed endurance into rebellion, and rebellion into lasting impact. And now the passageways are silent once more. Not the tense quiet of discipline, but a softer peace. Like a dwelling inhaling gently after a long, hard season. The kettle is quiet. The work boots are drying by the hearth, and somewhere the lilac bushes sway against the window pane, their sweet scent drifting around the edges of your awareness like a half-forgotten memory. You have witnessed it all. You have walked through ashes and candlelight, scrubbed floors next to strangers who became family, and slipped notes through gaps where no speech was tolerated. You have been past that legendary pin. You have worn that apron. You have reserved space in the record for the next person, and though the world outside still moves fast, still forgets, still dismisses, you remember not just the suffering, but the small triumphs. The burst of laughter in the utility room, the drawn stars in the rafters, the garden no one authorized to exist. You belonged here, not because you were permitted, but because you asserted your claim, and in that assertion you redefined the entire system. So now let that brooch stay where it is. Let the spoon melody fade. Let the dust settle calmly in the morning illumination. The place is safe now, and so are you. Shut your eyes. Inhale the scent of the lilacs. The kettle will not boil again until daybreak.